Welcome, everyone. We're going to have a really great day here, and we're going to have some cloud architect interviews, some cloud engineer interviews. And this is really about building cloud architect careers or cloud engineering careers, because I want you to get that first cloud architect job or that first cloud engineer job. You know, interviewing is a critical part of your cloud computing career development. And interviewing should be a critical part of your cloud computing career training, because it doesn't matter how good we are in our heads and how much knowledge we have in our heads if we can't convince the hiring manager to hire us. So that's why we love to practice the cloud architect interview, the cloud engineer interview. We consider this to be some really critical technical career development. And well, you know, whether you, regardless of the cloud computing job role you want, you need to get hired. And what gets you hired is the cloud architect interview or the cloud engineer interview. Now, we're going to talk about the interview process today. I'm going to be asking each person what their background is so I can tailor them to the interview. Here's the thing, in real life, what's on your resume is going to guide you to the interviewer on the correct interview. Have the right stuff on your resume for which you're an expert. That interview is going to go really smoothly. Have the wrong stuff on your resume, and that interview is not going to go smoothly. Now, my team popped it up on the screen, so I guess that means I should remind you that we have a 4-hour resume and LinkedIn workshop that's going to make the world come to you.
You started talking about it, so I figured we'd put it on the screen.
I think it's great, Chris. So it'll make the world come to you to hire you, which means to interview you. So the interview becomes really great. I can get recruiters to reach out to you all day long, but you got to master the interview, and you got to have the technical skills, the business acumen, the leadership, etc. So you want that cloud engineer job? I love it. You want that cloud architect job? I love it. We're going to help you get there, and today is going to be a good, fun training session. So I want you to watch and observe others and see how you would answer the same questions. The best military strategy book at all times was called The Art of War. I'm going to tell you right now, interviewing is war. There's no participation trophy for participating in the interview. It's war. You either win and get hired or lose and don't. It's war. So let's take some military strategy. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will always be victorious. So use this as an opportunity to learn yourself and others. You'll learn your competition. Take stock in yourself. Could I have answered these? Could I have done as well? Could I have done better? If not, you know you've got a training gap. So get better. So learn yourself, learn your competition. Look and see if you're prepared. And if you're not prepared, that's okay. Find the gaps. When I switched from internal medicine to tech, I spoke to about 50 recruiters, and they told me this is what I needed in the perfect network engineer. And I said, this was where I'm at. Filled in the gaps. One of my first interview, and I've been hired. Here's the thing. I can't think of a single interview I've ever been on in the last 25 years in tech that I've not been hired for. I can't think of a single one, because I studied the psychology of the interview. I studied sociology. I studied human behavior, soft skills, leadership skills. And when you master that interview, you can show that hiring manager that you're ready to get that first cloud architect job, that first cloud engineer job, that first solution architect job. And you'll be kicking off your cloud architect career or cloud engineering career. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. There's been some very brave volunteers coming from all over the world, living in countries throughout the world, to be with us today to help you build your best career. So I'm excited to help you guys out. I love training the world. Saeed, it's good to see you. Cloud hired. Tracy, happy everyone, and hello Friday. Abigail Max, I'm thrilled to see you again. Cloud hired, and Abigail, I hope your beautiful cat Noni's doing pretty well too. Dylan, good to see you. So we're going to have a lot of time. So please do the following in the chat box so I know you're awake, alert, and oriented. Can you give me a hashtag tech career interview training, or cloud architect interview training, or cloud engineer interview training based upon the career that you desire? And that way I'll know who you are and where you're coming from. And while you're at it, please give me a hashtag cloud hired too. Henry over there in Cyprus from Nigeria. I think that's the coolest thing.
So this is my opportunity to shamelessly plug this special show that, oh, hold on. Okay, had to get rid of him for a second. So Alonzo and I have some special things coming up next week that we need to make sure that you all join us for. So next Monday at our Cloud Career Q&A that Mike normally does on Mondays, Alonzo and I are going to kind of jump in and take over some things on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Leo, if you can you post that link for the thing next Monday? And then also on our Head in the Clouds episode next week, we've got a very special guest for Mike that we're gonna So we need you all to make sure you join us. But I wanted to take that opportunity to make sure everybody's aware of it. So let me. Oh, there you go. Okay.
That's what happened. I was on the screen. I couldn't find myself. It was like the weirdest thing.
That's what happens when I have the add and remove button. I can just kind of click you out of there when I need to. Kind of like when you start to talk about me and data science and data analysts, I just click that mute button when you start to talk about it.
It usually gives me a chance to pick up my cat and hug my cat, which always makes me happy.
Right, but see, I went a step further. I didn't just mute you. I just kicked you out completely.
So there you go. So you see, that's the freedom that my team actually has. They can literally kick me out. That's how much trust and faith I have in my team. Especially Chris.
Anyway, so I took you off track there. Let me get to these hashtags before we get to our first person. So many comments are coming in today.
And that's great. Let the comments come in. Let
there
people find out.
There we go. Sorry, I was several minutes behind. That's how long it was taking me to click
I'm
things.
loving this.
Yeah.
We're going to start to get a nice following of people here. Actually, while you're at it, it takes a lot of time to do this. There's 4 people dedicated on my team to doing this to make sure you guys can have the best cloud computing career. If you don't mind taking 30 seconds, send a tweet. Make a Facebook post. Make a quick LinkedIn post. I'm participating in some cloud architect interview training. Please join us. Please follow us. Because you know what? We want to help the world get cloud hired. So see all this cloud architect interview training, more cloud architect interview training, Tracy May cloud architect interview training, Brian McCool cloud hired in Philadelphia, LM in Mozambique. I love when you come here from Mozambique, cloud hired. Chindu cloud hired, Tracy May cloud hired. Wow, Tracy, I got to tell you, that the thing that I saw you do today was amazing. Derek Houston, cloud architect interview training. So good to see you. And Tunde Fab, cloud architect interview training.
So I got a favor to ask of anybody that's in our Slack community. Can somebody send Sigmund Wolf a link to this? Because for those of you that aren't in our program, this is the normal time for one of our classes. So since we're not in class right now, people are trying to figure out where we are. But if somebody could send him a message, and make sure we get him in the right place.
And some of my students will be here, and some people from the community are here. Do you know I love putting my students here? Well, for one thing, you get to see how amazing they are, but that's not the only reason. The other reason is it creates stress being live on YouTube. And an interview is stressful. So when I became a Krav Maga expert, I was learned to train the way you fight under stress. So I like to interview my students under stress. And that's what we postponed into class, because if thousands of people are watching them, it's going to be scarier. And that's the kind of stress that I want to simulate in the real interview. So when it comes down to the real interview, wow, you're prepared and you're not stressed. You're going to say, if I could do it in front of 1,000 people, I can do it in front of this one person. Simple, easy day. And it all comes down to being an easy day. And if it's an easy day in your mind, it's an easy day in reality. So let's start interviewing the first person here.
Oh, yeah. I got a good one for you for the first one. He didn't know what he was getting into.
Okay.
So let's, all right. So we got Mike. Mike on Mike. I like that. This could be a radio show. All right. So I'm going to, as I told everyone else, I'm going to be taking you guys off screen, and we'll let Mike handle his interview.
This is kind of cool. It's like a musical chairs game.
Yes, it is. And now I'm.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Mike, I think you're pretty new to the cloud. Is that correct?
Yes, very new.
Okay, so you're new to the cloud. This is really great. What is your current background? What is it you know best? What is your last job?
Thank you, Mike, for the question. So, my background is I have a bachelor's degree in neuroscience. So I was on the path of becoming a medical doctor, or should I say a surgeon. But then I got a job with AWS to work as a decom technician.
Okay.
They exposed us to a lot of resources. So, because when you're an employee, you get access to a lot of materials, study
Yes.
materials, and I like to learn. I like to explore new things. So, I started. I think we had a system was down some time back, and so we weren't really working, and so we were told to rather get busy, just learning new things. And then I started reading about the cloud computing and different stuff. So I fell in love with it, and I decided to pursue cloud.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to try and start with the most basic fundamentals. And, if all you've done is certification training up until now, if they're struggling, don't worry. There's plenty of time to learn. Plenty of time to learn. So I'm going to start with a basic subnetting question. You've got an IP address, 192.168.128.63. Could you tell me where that's, the subnet mask is 255.255.255.252. Could you tell me where that network begins? What's the broadcast address? And which two are the usable addresses in that subnet?
Unfortunately, Mike, I have never been exposed to that subject matter. So, but if it's something that is I need to learn in order to succeed, I think I would invest the time to learn or understand that subject matter in depth.
Okay. So let's get into another. I'll do something on the fundamental side. When would I use a relational database versus a NoSQL database?
I think with relational database, you'll be dealing with let's say in a situation where you're dealing with a customer's information that is, I guess, from the name relational. So things that have, let's say, an address or important details about the customer. I think that's when you will use a relational database. But I think with a NoSQL, I'm not really quite sure, but I think what the relational database deals with key pairs information, something like that.
Okay. Let's talk about load balancers. When would you use an application load balancer versus a network load balancer?
Unfortunately, Mike, I haven't had the opportunity to dive deep into load balancers yet, but I am also open to learning new things about it as well.
Okay. So that's totally reasonable. Tell me about yourself.
Thank you, Mike. So I'm Michael Bedzo, and I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa, and I moved to the States when I was a young teenager, and I completed my high school in Virginia. So Virginia is home. So I went to Stafford High School and completed my high school education, and then from there I gained admission to George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, where I pursued my neuroscience degree. And from an African background or household, it's usually three things: either a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. So everybody knew that I was going to pursue the medical school or the medical background. So I was locked in, but then eventually I fell in love with IT and decided to pursue cloud computing. So I'm very new to cloud computing.
Totally get that. Now, you said something pretty important to me. You said you fell in love with IT. Why? What was it so special about IT?
Yes. So one thing that I really liked about IT was the flexibility, like with the field, and I also felt like it didn't require you didn't burn out easily. It's not a job or field that people that work within that field tend to burn out. And I know this because I've also worked within the medical field, and I've been a caregiver before. I've been doing like nursing type of jobs before, working hands on with people, clients, and you do get burned out with those in those areas. So with the IT, there's a lot of flexibility. It's more of a relaxed environment, and plus you get compensated really well. So I considered all these things, and I felt that this was the right fit for me.
Mike.
I think Mike froze.
Hello, Mike. Okay. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Hey, Mark. I'm gonna have to since I know you can hear me. Oh, there's Mike. Okay, Mike's back. All right.
I'm on my backup internet. It took some time for my internet service provider to go from AT&T to Verizon when AT&T went down.
Wow.
So, like I say in high availability, 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is greater than 2. That's why I'd never use one internet service provider, and I would never use a single cloud because mine just went down. Of course, Cindy's probably busy pulling some cables. Who knows? She does like to do that. So why should I hire you, Mike?
That's a great question. Thank you. I think you should hire me because I am a highly motivated and a very cerebral person. I like to learn, and and I know that right now I may not know everything, but I believe that with that, with these traits that I have, I think that it will make me, successful once I get my hands on a lot of training and resources that will help me succeed. I think I'll take advantage of them. So I believe that, hiring me will I can eventually become an asset to the company. I don't want to just become an employee or somebody who's just part of the big numbers. But I really want to be an asset to the company, bring in money and profit to the company, and help the company succeed.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Now, I want to go through this interview with you. Some of it went well, and some of it you committed some of the most serious interview sins that you could possibly imagine. And we're going to go through them too.
Okay.
Fundamentals wise, you're brand new to cloud technology, so don't worry about that. You answered it honestly, which automatically made you stand out head and shoulders among half of the people that actually lied to me in an interview in my life. So there's that. So that was good. Now, I'd probably suggest saying in the future, I'm sorry I've not had the opportunity to learn that technology yet, but I'm highly energetic, I'm highly motivated, I'm highly enthusiastic, and I absolutely love technology. But this is not an area where I'm an expert. Having said that, if you'd like to check my competency, we can talk about this, this, and this. That would have been a much better answer, but I'm still fine with it. Just because you were honest with me to that point, and your personality was so likable, I still would have considered hiring you right to that point and training you. And I've hired somebody just like you. His name was Shanur. He had a great attitude, a great personality. He didn't know any of the skill for the job yet, but I liked him so much I hired him. Not only did he do something incredible, he became the CEO of a company, and he said brings Chromebooks to the developing world, getting computers in the hands of people that could never afford a computer before. I'm so happy I hired him. I'm so proud of him. You were right then and there, still going flying high with that perfect attitude. Then I asked you what you liked about technology, and you're talking about not wanting to burn out and earning money. That ended the interview so fast you had no idea. I love technology because it can change the way we live, work, and play or something. It can make businesses more important. I've seen the way that technology can change our lives, and I'd like to be part of it. That's an answer. The second you talk about burnout, interview's over. The second you talk about unhappiness, interview's over. The second you have any negativity about your past employer or past life, interview was over. So that really was the death of the interview right there. So what I'd say is, I want you to think about it this way. How do you put things in the employer's terms? Hiring manager, how can I make your life better? What is it about tech that you like? Find something. Know that answer. Even if in your mind is you want a stable job, know that answer. Now, when you went in there and you talked about an immigrant story of coming from West Africa to the United States, there's some power in that, Mike. It's not easy to come to the United States as an immigrant. Your parents or you, no matter how you did it, went to the consulate 1,000,001 times, how to prove something special about you. That was tough. That's a story of survival. That's a story to show your mental toughness. I might even throw that in there. As an immigrant, I know what it's like to work with nothing and to fight for everything. And whether it's fighting for my family or fighting for my employer, I'm there. That's a powerful story. On a side note, I actually did my clinical pediatric rotations with this physician, Daniel Dada from Ghana. And wow, he taught me more in 3 months than I learned in 7 years of school. Because he taught me how to diagnose with my hands instead of running a $3,000 test for every single thing in the world, because he was an incredible instructor. But yeah, the story of coming somewhere, working hard to get here and building yourself up. Having a neuroscience degree, great. Well, but you could have done with that is you should have said, I actually have a neuroscience degree, which enables me to better connect with people, better present to people, to establish better rapport, to help influence their decisions. That's your strength. So your attitude was perfect. Perfect. Now, I also want to improve your executive presence a little bit. And here's what I mean. If I were to say BGP is a TCP-based protocol that uses port 179, it's reasonable and it's all true. But if I said BGP is a path vector routing protocol that uses TCP port 179, it sounds stronger, more powerful. That's called executive presence. So I notice when you're a little lost, you say as a filler word. That really takes a lot out of your communications. So if you make your point, pause, collect your thoughts, make your point, pause, collect your thoughts, you'll have more executive presence, because the reason when people speak too fast where they're not considered executives is as follows. The people that are the executives, they can speak as long as they want and people are listening. The people that are not have to get their thoughts out fast, fast, fast before somebody cuts them off. So I got to tell you, as someone that grew up around the New York Metro and someone that talks fast, 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 for me, I always try and slow it down. I don't always do such a good job of it, by the way, but I do the best I can. But for you, make a point, pause, make your next point, pause, make your next point. Obviously, we're going to do the fundamentals, but I think actually this morning you just signed up for my program. So I know you're going to get the really great fundamentals. And I'm excited, a year from now, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, when you're hired as an architect, it's going to be fun. And I know you're going to do great. So you take that great attitude, add that to that neuroscience background, which is very powerful. Add the gravitas or the executive presence, you'll be cloud hired. But, you're just not there yet. But you will be.
All right.
Good job, Mike. Very good job.
Good job for a first timer and the first, literally taking the first step up to the plate. There we go.
And let's give everybody, it's a solution architect or cloud architect job you're looking for, right?
Yes. All right. So hashtag cloud architect.
Let's give us a hashtag cloud architect for Mike.
There we go.
First one.
Yeah.
First volunteer with
first volunteer, and he first came across us yesterday. Well, yeah. I don't know if he first came across us yesterday, but he first.
But the point is,
reached out.
Brand new volunteer. That's a story of mental toughness. That's a story of a winner. So yes, good job. Let's give you a hand of applause. I know where you're going to be soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to bring the next person in. Thank you for stepping up, Mike. And like I mentioned earlier, just go ahead and close the browser out. That way it opens up another slot for other interviewees to step in. There we go. And I think you might recognize the next person. So we will bring in Mark.
Mark, how are you? Mark is an incredibly smart geologist. He just joined my cloud engineering program about 6 weeks ago. So I'm so happy to see you, Mark. Mark, how are you today?
Good. Very excited to be here.
Mark, and you're in Texas, right?
I'm in Texas, and it is hot, but it's starting to cool down just a little bit.
Well, Mark, I'm honored to have you here interviewing for a cloud engineer position with Alpha Bravo Charlo Delta Echo Foxtrot Golf Company today. It's a real pleasure to see you here. As you know, we are a cloud architect and a cloud engineering and a consulting firm. We're high growth. We've got customers all around the world. Our customers demand high availability and critical security solutions from us. So we're very happy to hear you. I heard there was this guy named Mike Gibbs who said you were a great cloud engineer, and I'm honored to interview you today. So Mark, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Mike, as you know, I'm a geoscientist who's transitioning from beneath the ground to the cloud. It's because I love technology, I love learning new things, and I want to get cloud hired. So starting out, I did everything the wrong way. I listened to the wrong people. I got several cloud certifications with AWS, but I was getting no job offers. I'd watched your program for over a year and said, this guy really knows what he's talking about. He teaches from the ground up, from the data center to the cloud, because the cloud is basically just a virtual data center. So that's what I wanted to learn. I was a little weak on Linux, Python, wanted to get some Terraform. So I enlisted in the Cloud Engineers program, and I haven't looked back.
So fantastic, Mark. So let's talk about some basic networking. We're going to start there. We're going to work our way up. If I give you the subnet 172.16.1.5, 172.16.1.5, with a 30-bit subnet mask, otherwise known as 255.255.255.252, what's the beginning address of the network address? What's the usable addresses? And what's the broadcast address for that subnet?
Okay, so we're looking at a CIDR mask of, let's see, 192.224.
So subnet mask is going to be 255.255.255.252.
Oh, 252. Okay, so we're looking at a subnet mask, or I'm sorry, a CIDR range of 255.255.255.252, did you say?
That's the mask.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's the subnet mask.
Okay, so you're going to have 4 available networks, or 4 networks created, but you can only use 2 of them, because one is for the broadcast and one is for the network. So basically all you can do is set up your routers to communicate with each other. And your first one would be 172. Was that 17 you said?
It was 16.
No, 12. I'm sorry?
It was one, I think. I actually don't even remember. So you can pick whether it was 16 or 17. I don't care at this point.
Okay, yeah.
We're only dealing with the last octet anyway.
16.1.
Was the address I gave you.
The next available host would be 7. And then the next available host after that would be 8. And then we would jump to the next subnet.
Okay. Well, we'll readdress that subnet mask in the next class.
I'm a little rusty on that.
Okay. Well, that's important. So we'll fix that. But could you tell me what would cause me to choose a network load balancer versus an application load balancer?
Yes, your network load balancer is fast, fast, fast. Whereas your application load balancer takes a look at the TCP header, the host, and the path files and routes it that way. The network load balancer just looks at the source address and the destination address and routes your traffic that way. So it's a lot faster. Network load balancers are great when you're using microservices and containers. Application load balancers are best when you've got different websites, when you're using APIs like your Git, pull, delete, APIs like that. And but it's going to slow down. But they're both great ways to provide performance and availability and speed. You always want to have a load balancer of some kind, and maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, so let's assume I have block storage and I need high performance storage, far greater than block storage could ever give us. Let's say that I need 1 million IOPS, which is what I get from about $150 drive at Best Buy, an NVMe drive. How could I achieve that on AWS if the fastest IO2 drive is 250,000 IOPS?
Yeah, you're right. You're not going to get that on AWS, Mike. You're going to have to do that in the data center. You're going to have to chain those drives together. Like you say, your NVMe is going to give you your highest performance of 6,000 megabits per second, and chain several of them together and do a RAID, RAID 0 mirroring of each one. That's how you're going to achieve your highest performance.
Okay. And regarding Linux, if you're using VI or Vim, how do you get to the beginning of a line? What's the command structure that you would press to get to the beginning of a line?
I'm not great on Vim yet. I've tried it, but I know that you just do the insert, and that will take you to the beginning of the line. Then use the arrow keys to scroll down. I know that there's several commands that you can use to go to a certain line number, to exit, basically using the parentheses and then typing in your command. To get out of the insert mode, you can hit I again. It's a little convoluted. I'm more of a fan of the Nano editor at this point, but I know that a lot of Linux people really look down on people who don't know Vim, so I am trying to get better at it.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you, one last engineering question. What would go into a Hello World Python script?
Print parentheses, hello world, close parentheses, and then I believe you can do an echo statement, but I'm not quite sure. I know that the print command will probably get you there.
Okay, that's actually pretty good. You're 3/4 of the way there. So that's good. Now, why should I hire you?
Mike, I bring a lot of experience, a lot of enthusiasm, great team player. I've always loved sports, so that's part of my culture. Always willing to learn and very enthusiastic about cloud architecture, network architecture, everything around that. But again, and I do bring some leadership experience also. So that's why I think I would be an asset to your company.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So a couple of things. You told me you're passionate about cloud architecture, but applying for a cloud engineer job. That is a problem. Because it's like saying, I'm really passionate about nursing when you're a doctor. It's a totally different career. So, Mark, I know there's much more in your head than this, but it's still going to take you a little more time, and that's okay. So, got to be able to figure out the beginning of the subnet. So when I gave you 172.16.1.5/30, the 192.16.1.4 was the beginning of the subnet. The .5 and .6 are usable addresses, and .7 is the broadcast. That's okay. We got to work on that. Now, on the load balancer piece, realistically speaking, a network load balancer looks at the TCP source address, TCP or UDP source address, destination address, protocol, and port number, and it's fast. You had that right. So for microservices, we generally use an application load balancer, not a network load balancer. So application load balancers look into the full HTTP, HTTPS header. They'll look at things like push or get, for example. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So a little bit of knowledge on load balancers. No big deal. You're going to get them because it's only been 6 weeks or so from about as far as I can tell. And it's going to take, 6 months or so to really train somebody because this is a big field and you're doing really great. On the Linux thing, you probably need to know VI. You need to know like how to actually save it, how to get to the beginning of the line, the end of the line. No, just not there yet, but that's okay. But by the time you're done building that OpenStack cloud, you will be. I promise you that. And I would get used to using at least VI or Vim because, when you're going to be SSHing into servers, it's what a lot of us use. I don't care how you do it personally. Now, there was another Linux thing that I think I asked you. I don't even remember what it was at this point.
How to print hello? Oh, no, that was Python.
Yeah, that was a Python thing. Actually, that I was good with because it is kind of like a print hello world thing. I'm not a Python developer, believe me. But I've seen it in a book somewhere, and I try to remember that because that's the kind of thing that I like. A lot of people say is, "Can you at least do that?" So I think it's a good start, Mark. Here's what you did well: you had good presence, trusted you, which is very hard to do. Your attitude was very strong, very, very strong. I'd like you to show more about all the problems you've been solving your whole life in geology and all the things that go into it, making sure people don't die, making sure you don't miscalculate, attention to detail, focus, consistency, professionalism. You're doing that as an engineer. You're going to be another engineer. It's the same thing, but I want that. I want you to really talk about that. And then
Gotcha.
with the tech, and then it's great. But it's a very good start, Mark. It's just a little more time.
Yep. Great, Mike. Thank you.
Time, but it's a very good start, Mark. Very good start.
Feeling good about things, Mike. Thanks to your program.
You're going to be. What else did I forget, Chris?
No, I was going to say Mark forgot the quotations. Parentheses, quote, hello, space, world, close quote, close parentheses.
Yeah, Mark's a rock star.
Oh, no. He was saying it, and I'm like, Mike's probably going to say Chris knows. Chris knows.
I was thinking that Chris would know, actually.
That was a good one, though. That was a good one. Yeah. So.
You can see it's different questions that I asked you because you're going to the cloud engineering world. But don't convict architecture and engineering with your customers. They know the difference.
Yep.
All right. So I think
it's a very good start.
Are we ready for the next one, Mike?
Yeah, I think we are.
All right. Well, that was a good job. Let's get I guess we'll get a hashtag cloud engineer in the chat box for Mark.
Let's get a hashtag cloud engineer. And here's the thing. When Mark told me about himself, he made it compelling. He showed focus. He showed energy, determination. Well, that's the key. That part I really like. That's at least 50% of it.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to bring the next one in. Mark, all you need to do is just close the web browser and join us
on YouTube, Mark, though, please.
YouTube. Yep.
I want you to get as much intel and reconnaissance as possible. And yes, I called it reconnaissance, apparently.
All right. So our next person, I believe their name is Faye, or Fee. I'm maybe mispronouncing it. I apologize. So there we go.
Effie.
Yeah.
Where are you
Effie,
from,
all right.
Effie, by the way, with that name?
By the way, Mark, Mike, I haven't had a chance to communicate this to you, but we are separated by Aegean Sea. Mike, your hometown in Greece is across from the Aegean Sea, so we are
wow.
Oh,
we
fantastic.
are we are we are brothers from different mother, Mike.
Okay, fantastic. Are you from Turkey? Or are
Yes.
you from Turkey?
Yes.
Fantastic. I've been to Istanbul and absolutely loved it over there. You want to hear something even funnier about it, Effie? So I was part
Yes.
of a martial arts delegation in Israel one day. We were there for a week studying Krav Maga. And there were like 3 of us that were Greek, and there were 4 Turkish people. And I went with the Greek people every night for dinner. The Turkish people went with the Turkish people every night for dinner. We were in the same restaurant on the first day, the second day, the third day. By the time we were done, we had the whole dinner the whole time together and lunches. It was really great. We were actually swapping recipes too, because I have the same moussaka's in both places.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fantastic, Effie. So wonderful, wonderful. I
Glad
believe
to
you're
be-
working to become a cloud architect. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And what is your background?
So background is about first. I'm glad to be here. I have 15 years optimizing and improving businesses. And my background, basically, the experience spans from heavily security to designing systems, designing databases, big data reporting. So what I did, Mike, was I did contract work on purpose, just so that I can cherry pick projects or the skills that I wanted to put under my belt. And so it basically became this career building venture, going from, let's say, sort of being like, start out as I was in charge of a wide area network, basically start from nothing. All you had was the free version of Nessus. So when I left, we had firewall, we had VPN, and then security controls in place, like password policy, etc. And then I went to work for Hewlett Packard, where I was basically building systems, designing systems for Big Three, because Hewlett Packard was basically outsourcing all the basically server maintenance from Big Three. And then I went to work for, anyways, it went on, building basically architecting secure websites, designing databases, rolling out ERP systems for, a manufacturing company. And then, a lot of work on the governance, risk, and compliance space, which is under cybersecurity. So I think that I'm heavy on the security, Mike, but what I noticed in the last few weeks was the weakness in networking. So I am knee deep in networking. I ordered the books that you recommended from Halabi. Yes, Halabi and the other, the guy basically just going heavy there. But I know that the journey is going to take time because of that. So what I'm trying to do is get something going as a cybersecurity architect, perhaps, and then continue on your program. And meanwhile, I start my master's in finance, and I can tell you why, etc. But that's also happening in the meantime.
Okay, so I was actually trying to ask the question to figure out what you did, so I knew how to guide this interview. I'm still not. I'm completely confused with what you've done, because it sounds like a little of this and a little of this and a little of this. So I'm going to basically base it on a cloud architect interview. A standard one. Sounds like you've done some security stuff and database stuff. That's primarily. Is that what it primarily is?
You can say security, yes. Servers, databases, big data.
Okay, so that's not
yes.
security to me. So if it's servers, it's compute. If it's databases, it's something different. Is that what you would say? It's more working on servers and systems?
No, what I'm saying is I have experience in IT security.
Okay.
I have experience building, designing systems. I have experience designing databases.
Okay.
I have experience building infrastructures for reporting. Let's say we had a customer where we rolled out e-business suite, and then the CISO needed, the CIO needed to know how much sale, let's say, they were making at a specific section. So it's particular reporting needs. Reporting or infrastructure. But most of the experience I have probably is around IT security.
Okay. So let's do this. We'll start it, and I'm going to ask you about IT security things. So in 60 seconds or less, because this is where we need to establish rapport in the beginning of an interview, could you tell me about yourself?
Yes, I have 15 years optimizing and improving businesses.
Good.
And I basically architecting and delivering solutions, cybersecurity solutions for Fortune 500 customer base,
Okay.
covering telecommunications, financials, retail, higher education, just to name a few.
Okay. Excellent. Could you tell me what the demilitarized zone should look like for a web application, assuming it's a critical security environment? How should I design that demilitarized zone?
Yes, so that will be typically, I imagine high availability is also your priority.
Absolutely critical, yes.
Yes, in that case, what we will do, Mike, is you will have a firewall where, okay, so you need DMZ only for the web services, correct?
Just for the web servers.
Okay, so that's pretty easy. So when I say easy, basically what we are doing is taking the firewall, creating the subnet, locking down that subnet, and allowing only traffic through, let's say, 443, and perhaps also 80. What that means is you have the firewall, and you want the firewall to be basically an integration that has the IDS, IPS capabilities.
Okay.
And then closing out everything else. And then on the web server, you could also you can also use the web application firewalls. Now to get around the distributed denial of service attacks, and that's going to be part of your other. I guess we need to stick to the DMZ first. In terms of DMZ, the whole idea is you are locking down the subnet. You are allowing only certain ports, in this case, web service, and we talked about 443 and 80. And that's and when we say, when we talk about web server, we have to talk about application security, because clearly you have something that you are serving on the web server. But app security itself is a discipline by itself. That means security has to be part of the SDLC. You are doing app scanning. You are doing code reviews. So in other words, development team working with the security. So even though we are just talking about DMZ, when you're talking about web server and you are sort of exposing some application, that application security itself also is important. But the DMZ itself, as I said, earlier, you're locking down the subnet, and you are basically allowing only the port, the service that needs to be serviced.
So where do I do that limitation? Where do I block the traffic to only allow those ports 80 and port 443? Let's assume I'm in a cloud.
So you do that at the firewall level.
That's it? Is there any other places where I'm going to lock it down, or I'm just going to put a rule on the firewall and assume I'm secure?
You have the IDS,
Okay.
the secondary layer. So you have the IDS IPS layer.
Okay, and then what?
And then let's see. And then this is gonna this is okay. I'm a little so obviously web server is gonna sit on a server.
Mhm.
So you have to harden this operating system on that server. That server has to have host-based firewall.
Okay, what else?
I'm sorry?
We still haven't answered the question of how do we block the traffic going to the server, but we'll put that aside for a minute. How do we harden the server?
You basically shut down all the ports and services that are not required.
Good.
And the host-based firewalls is another one. And all the security groups. The access control list at the I think that's what you're looking for. Access control list at the subnet level, because that's how you control or secure subnets, ACLs. So on top of the firewalls, etc., the IDS, IPS, the ACLs.
Okay. That's getting closer. So, okay, good. So how does auto scaling help prevent an organization help an organization survive a DDoS attack?
Okay, very good question there. Typically a CDN will be very helpful in that you basically, actually you're talking about the auto scaling.
Yes.
Let's say a web server is compromised.
Okay.
So with auto scaling, you are popping up new ones. So that way, the one web server being down is not going to be impacted because you keep propping up others. That's one of the ways. Obviously, CDN is another way to fight against DDoS or distributed denial of service attacks.
Okay, so actually that's quite good. What explain to me, what is identity and access management? What is it truly trying to achieve?
That is basically saying who can come into network and what resources they can access, and then tracking the activity. That's really, in a sense, what identity access is. So authorization, authentication, and tracking through logs. And if you are doing tracking, then that's typically you take the logs, you dump them into a reporting system like Tabula, and you can visualize it, make it comfortable. In a sense, that's what you do at a high level. That's what IAM is. IAM is.
So I like that, and I actually do very much so. So how do we make a high availability firewall situation in a cloud environment?
Okay, so what you do, Mike, is that's a great question. So what you do is you have multiple firewalls. You front them with a load balancer, and so there's you cut down the single point of failure right there, and then as you move forward, obviously assuming these are next generation firewalls, meaning the IDS IPS capability, but you don't stop there. You go one more layer. You provide another layer of IDS IPS with redundancy again. In other words, you have load balancing in front of firewalls and the load balancing in front of the IDS IPS. And should I stop or should I can continue?
No, keep going. You're going to get some baklava and some kadaifi when we're done. This is great. So why should I hire you?
Because I am passionate about technology. I I have ton of experience. Like I spent my, over 15 years basically building the experience and the wisdom basically to solve your problems. And these are problems that I solve for Fortune 500 customers, like the America's largest corporations, and covered financials, again, many sectors. And I enjoy learning. To me, it's constantly, if you are not learning, you are behind. This is so true in technology. And the other thing about architecture discipline is it connects technology and finance. It's in other words, we are business consultants with the tool set of technology, and so I happen to be passionate about both, and I, anyways, I think that I offer basically a lot of value, a lot of sort of like, but anyways, I think I made my point.
Okay, so that's just pretty interesting, Effie. So let's go over this. One is you're very competent. That's clear. Now, it took a little bit of time initially to figure out, were you competent or did you just have a hard time explaining it? You are extremely competent and extremely capable, and you've got all the skills right now to be an architect. Right now. Now, the way you present it needs a little work still to really get you to that level that you need to be. Now, there's two things going on. One is, at home, I think of open the lights, close the lights. I don't think in English as a primary language. So if you might be thinking in Turkish and translating to English, or you might be thinking in English, but those of us that speak another language at home, there's some words that just don't translate. So there's that. But I'd say if you could get to the point quicker, because you are there. Like if you were to say, hey, at the edge of your network, for your DMZ, have a network load balancer, front end to your next generation firewalls, right behind the next generation firewalls, POP and network access control list to protect the subnet, then add a security group, then take the server, patch the server, put some anti-malware systems on the server, disable unnecessary services crisply, I would have known how good you were. Now, it's all in your head. When I asked the questions a couple times, it all came out. But I would say if you could formulate the answer to be crisper, that would really be helpful. So on that end-to-end security piece, I gave you a big one, actually. That's a pretty big one, and you did relatively good. Now, when it came into the identity access management, that was solid. That was very solid. When I asked you to create a high availability firewall solution, that was really solid. When I got into the why I should hire you, it started out super, super solid, but you went on too long. You should hire me because I've got 15 years experience in helping businesses improve. Despite having 15 years experience, I still love the tech and learn more each day. And I'd like to help you and your customers be more successful. That's why you should hire me. It was very solid. Very solid out there. If you were local, I'd have some kadaifi with you, some baklava, maybe some moussaka, and of course, I'd make a Greek salad, which is probably the same thing because we're such close neighbors, and I'd love to do it. By the way, where are you located?
Oh, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri. Yep.
Wonderful. We have another student, Henry, who's Nigerian, living in Cyprus too.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is totally incredible. So, great job, Effie.
Thank you.
Great.
I appreciate the time.
Get a little more practice and just getting it out. Film yourself on these things, but that was rock solid.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
How long have you been working with us, by the way?
A few weeks.
A few weeks.
I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Very solid. 2 to 3 months. That's going to be super silky smooth.
Looking forward to Mike. Thank you.
Great job. I'm so happy. Cloud hired. Let's give him cloud architect, cloud hired. In the chat box, please. Already Abigail Max, good, perfect with the cloud hired. Almighty, I love that.
Yep. Good job. Good job. So looks like we are ready for our next one. and I think you'll be familiar with this one as well. So let's bring in Alex.
Alex,
You just love this this whole Mediterranean field, don't we?
today's Mediterranean Day. Last person was Turkish. Alexandros Inalinas, meaning he's Greek. Yasu Alexandros.
Yasu, Mike.
And we'll do this in English because not everybody speaks fluent Greek here, or thinks in Greek.
Of course.
So, Alex, and I know you, so I'm not going to ask you about your background. He's got a very good background. Tell me about yourself.
Of course, Mike. I'm a cloud architect with a focus in business transformation through technology. Previously, I worked in the academic world, designing classroom technology. So that involved speaking to different department heads and assessing their needs and researching new technologies that might fit those needs and designing the classroom. While I was working there, I had the opportunity to learn computer science. And unfortunately, while I was working there, I didn't have the chance to change my career because my father got sick and he owns a restaurant. So I went to the restaurant to help my family. When I started there, I wanted to change and transform the business to make it more efficient and make it more profitable. So I looked into different technologies and how to do that. Something as simple as adding a timer for toasting subs it could completely change your day, or finding a solution for receiving orders through text messaging or online ordering, and which would reduce time for workers to, actually cook the food instead of talking on the phone. While I was working there, I also learned Swift programming for iOS for iPhones, and I mainly did that for hobbyists. I did get some contract work, but it wasn't really my passion, and I wanted to focus on the family business. Now that business is coming to a close, I really wanted to focus on technology and the cloud and change my career again, and this is my opportunity.
Alex, you said a lot of things that I love so far. You talked about transformation, and sometimes it's as simple as a timer. I consulted with a hospital and added a second ice machine, and the transformation that made was amazing. So I like it. That's the point. You're thinking, how does the tech work for somebody, not just talking tech. So I'm already happy to talk to you. Could you tell me, what is a load balancer, how does it work, and why we use them?
A load balancer is a hardware or software-based device that increases the availability and performance of your systems. It does this, it increases availability by removing single points of failure. So you'll have multiple servers attached to your load balancer, and the load balancer will check in with each server with allotted through an allotted time, whatever that may be, and it'll perform these health checks. So it'll ask the server, "Are you there? Are you there?" The server will respond, "Yes, I'm here," until it's not. And when that happens, the load balancer will remove all traffic to that server and spread it among the other servers. It's the same way it increases performance as well, because it won't allow for any single server to reach 100% before going to any other servers.
Great job, Alex. Wow. Could you tell me when I should use a VPN versus a private line or a direct connection?
So in the perfect world, if you're looking for a high availability, you'll want your data center or your cloud to have redundancy. So a private line is the best option to connect to the cloud, because you're not going to go over the internet. So you have control over all of the traffic. You know exactly if your traffic's going to reach the other location. And if in the perfect world, you would have at least two direct lines or private lines, or direct connections. And additionally, you'd have a VPN. For use cases, you would use the VPN maybe if you have a data center and you have a bunch of smaller offices in different areas. You could use the VPN to make it easier, less expensive for your company to reach your data center. The private line, which in most cases would be faster if you're connecting to your data center, it's a lot more expensive because you're actually laying down physical cables, and it takes a longer period of time. So again, a VPN can be brought up in minutes.
Good. Very good. Okay, so I have a company A that's using the 10.0.0/8 address space. They just buy another company B who's also using the 10.0.0/8 address space. So I got a Greek pizza who just bought a Greek coffee company, the Lacus Coffee Company, which was my relatives. So they now want to talk to each other. And they're using the same IP addresses. Is there a technology that you can use to get them talking to each other?
You know, Mike, I'm not entirely sure about the question. I know several technologies that could possibly work, but I have a kind of a basic understanding of the network and actually connecting them. So they're both private networks.
Both private networks with the same overlapping IP address.
So in my head, I'm thinking you would. Actually, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, I'm going to help. If I speak to you in Greek and you need to tell your friend in English, would you do anything?
You would need to translate it.
Yes.
So
is there anything in the cloud and technology that would enable us to translate one address to another address?
Yes, you could use network address translation. So
Okay.
Translation's in the name. I was thinking that would be the case. So you normally use that for changing a public address to a private, and vice versa. So for a large company, you would use port address translation or NAT overload to get all the millions, because you're using 10.0.0.8, millions of subnets connected to one single public IP.
Right. Exactly, and that's the case. Most people think NAT is going to the internet, but most of the use cases are actually this exact kind of situation where a company buys another company. Or it could be used, as you described, as NAT overload or PAT going to the internet. Very good, very solid. So what's the problem with using a bastion host?
So bastion host is something you never want to use in your business or company unless you want to get hacked, because
good.
it's wide open to the internet, and there's a backdoor built into it that goes to your private servers, and any hacker or anybody with a rudimentary hacking ability can hack into your system.
Very true. Yeah. It's not, we got some straight system in the middle of the internet, no protections on hardening. Yeah, we're going to get hacked. Nice job, Alex. So, why should I hire you?
Mike, you should hire me because I'm a hard worker. I spend all of my extra time learning technologies, and I would work tirelessly day and night to be able to explain questions just like you asked before about NAT. And not only that, I've run my own business. I can see the business through the perspective of the owner, the employees, the customers, partners, vendors. I can use digital transformation to transform your company.
Wow, Alex, you're going to bring me to tears of happiness. I'm so excited because you're getting cloud hired really, really soon. Wow, Alex, seriously, great job. I remember where you started. Wow. Wow, great job. That was just seriously terrific. You didn't lie when you got to something you weren't sure of. I walked you through it just to see how you were going to do it, and you took over. Excellent, excellent. To tell me about yourself was perfect. The why I should hire you was perfect. The load balancer was perfect. This is great, Alex. This is really great. Keep doing what you're doing for the next week, 2, 3 weeks, month, and then go out there and let's get you hired. You're about ready now, Alex. I'm really excited.
Ευχαριστώ, Mike. I really appreciate it.
So, wow, Alex, I am so excited. I really am. This is the highlight of my day so far. We had 2 really strong ones, but let's make sure we tune that resume, and let's get you out there.
Sounds good, Mike. Thank you.
This is fantastic, and of course, it'll be great to speak to another cloud architect in Fluent Creek out there. So, thank you so much, Alex. Great job. Look, and if you look at the comments, you'll see how many people saw it. And all of our students that were really, really good. Just seriously great job. I'm so happy. I'm really so happy. You have no idea.
All right. That was awesome.
That was really great.
Yeah. So I think that's a double hashtag cloud hired and hashtag cloud architect.
Yeah, let's give him a cloud hired and a cloud architect and a hashtag Alex. Let's give him all 3.
Yeah.
Alex deserves all of them.
I think I know who I'll be doing the next video with.
Thank you to everybody in the community too for your kind words. It means a lot.
You really did great, and thank you everybody for being supportive of him. This is a family here at Go Cloud Careers. We love each other, and we help each other. And for people that are not part of Go Cloud Careers that are just joining us, we're thrilled to have you too. So wonderful.
Yeah. All right. So we'll bring the next person in. Alex, you know what to do. You can close this browser and
please watch the other one as long as you can. And when you have to go back to the estuatorio, I understand.
Yeah. All right. So our next one may also be a familiar face for you. If not a familiar face, then a familiar voice, I'm sure. So let's bring in Olu.
Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
I am doing great. Segun, how are you?
Doing wonderful. I've been enjoying the interview so far. It's been really great.
So Segun, I do know you. Segun is a very impressive, very fine young man.
Thank you so much.
Segun, could you tell me about yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I am a cloud architect with Go Cloud Careers with about 12 years of consulting experience. I have strong knowledge and experience solving customer challenges with technology solutions. I have a strong background in cloud architecture, sales, leadership, and digital transformation. I also have owned my own business in the past where I met with customers, asked about their needs, their goals, presented a solution to them, and sold it to them. I'm very good at bringing out the best in others. I'm an active listener, always ready to learn, and up for any challenge.
I love that, Segun. So, Segun,
Yes, sir.
could you tell me when it would be optimal to use a VPN versus a direct connection to the cloud?
Yes, definitely, Mike. Ideally, a VPN would be a great option over doing a direct connect when you're thinking about speed. And so, say you're trying to mitigate a problem in your business, or you're trying to connect to the cloud really fast, we're going to be using a VPN over a direct connect. The downside to it is just, it's over the internet, but we create a IPsec tunnel to protect your infrastructures now.
So what you're saying is, if we need to set it up in minutes, we use a
Yes,
VPN.
yes. You can, in a minute, you can do it in less than 20 minutes. Set up a VPN between your data center and the cloud. That's really fast.
Okay, I love that. Are there any performance differences between these two kinds of
yes,
WAN technologies?
Definitely. The reason why because it's the internet, and so it's best effort. And the downside to it is we have a lot of people using the same bandwidth, and you won't have great performance. There's going to be a lot of latency. And that's why we would opt to using a direct connect. And so most businesses like banks, financial businesses, hospitals use direct connect just because they need that guarantee bandwidth.
So Segun, I'm designing a system for a hospital.
All right.
The patient's medical records are going to be on the hospital. If access to the records does not occur, someone will die.
Mm-hmm.
Is it acceptable to be on the AWS clouds in 2 availability zones in 2 regions and assume that's going to be good enough?
No, Mike, because AWS is a single point of failure. And so ideally what we would do is, instead of doing 2 regions, we would we'll create a 99.999, which is the 5 lines of availability in your business. And so we would use AWS and another cloud provider, either it's Google Cloud Platforms or Microsoft Azure. And then there are other ones we would possibly use. And the idea is to have different regions with different cloud providers and 2 availability zones as well.
Excellent. When would I use block storage versus object storage?
Oh, perfect. I mean, block storage essentially is what you're going to attach to your virtual machines. And so they're helping your virtual machines operate those things happening in the applications that are running on your machines and everything. As opposed to object storage, usually we use object storage for archival purposes and keeping your information online, just so you can achieve and make things, quick access to it, depending on what your use case is. And that's why we're going to use block storage or object storage. Object storage comes with an added benefit of having metadata, where you can analyze all the data in your object and you can version. And so it creates a lot of redundancy, where you don't have to delete, modify files. You start with a particular file and then you get to another one and get to versioning. And that also helps with compliances in your businesses as well.
Great. When would I use a network load balancer versus an application load balancer?
Oh yeah, that's a great question, Mike. Those are really good things, because ideally the load balancer distributes the traffic between your systems and your resources on the cloud. And so why would use a network load balancer is when we need speed, like really, really fast speed, and we can't have any latencies on our businesses. An application load balancer, on the other end, will be used when we need business intelligence. We need to direct traffic to different microservices, for instance. And so it will be checking where your traffic needs to go, the path, the route, and just the header of your traffic and everything.
Why should I hire you, Segun? Other than the fact that you just blew me away with a near perfect interview.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. I mean, why shouldn't you hire me? I have great personality. I'm an active listener. I'm learning on the job. I've been in the business field and sales for over 12 years, about 11 years since 2011. And I've tried my hands on a lot of things, from sales of books to running a restaurant at the university with my friends, to owning my own photography business, and subsequently transitioning into the cloud architecture space. I believe my skills, which are mostly my entrepreneurial skill, will be a benefit to your company because I'm a self-starter. I am very motivated, able to learn on the job, able to bring out the best in my team. I'm also very flexible. That's something being a business owner gives you, the learning to be flexible, learning to be very adaptable, learning to, work through problems to come up with tangible solutions. So I believe I'll be a very great addition to your team as well.
Okay, well, Segun. Okay, I'm beyond excited. How long have you been my student, Segun?
A little over 2 months.
Okay, so this is Segun, and who's got 2 months in our program. 2 months. Your girlfriend at Ebola's here. She's all kinds of impressed, as she should be. I'm impressed. I bet you my team is impressed.
Thank you so much.
And there's only one thing that I'll even give you in terms of feedback. In the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
if you had to slowed it down a little bit, you'd have had a little more executive presence. But it was still a 99 out of 100.
Oh, appreciate it, Mike. Thank you so much.
It showed you played to your games. Remember, I told you that your strength was you could connect to people, and you're super likable, and you're energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate.
Yes,
and I asked you to do that. You did that.
Thank you so
So
much.
whatever inexperience you have with your youth was more than made up by the competency, the energy, the enthusiasm. I'm so proud of you. You have no idea how excited I am.
Thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you, Mike. I really appreciate it.
I'm just so happy. I get happy. It brings tears to my eyes when my students get hired because that's why I do this.
Yes,
I mean, nobody else would produce a course like this and charge as little as we do if they weren't concerned about the people getting hired.
Definitely.
You are. You're there.
Appreciate it. Thank you so
2
much.
months. I'd say let's get you to 3-4 months for the following reason. I want you so good that when you just totally blow them away.
All right. Okay.
But that's Segun. He's my student. He has more questions in class than anybody you can possibly imagine. And when he does, he's like, sorry, I have another question. I say, thank you for asking the questions because that means you're trying to learn. And everybody else learns. Segun. Wow. I'm so excited. Everybody give him a cloud hired too. And
Appreciate
you're
it.
what, 24 years old or 25?
I'm 27.
27. Okay,
Yes,
27 years old. Acting like a 45-year-old.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate it.
I'm so proud of you, Segun. Honestly, that's just so great. I'm just so excited.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Everybody get him a cloud architect, a cloud hired, and a Segun, please. Or his full name, if you, he told me to call him Segun, so I didn't have to learn how to practice it. I think.
And Chris calls me Olu too, so he just makes it a little easier.
I've heard that Olu means God.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not in the classes, so I'm not familiar with
Oh no, I actually go by both names, Olu or Segun. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Great job.
Great job.
That's good.
Thank you. So we'll bring in the next person. I believe the next person is Kevin. Let's see. There we go.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
You're doing great. You look like you're stylish and ready for Miami.
It wasn't my intention, but I could not find my black jacket today. So
It's totally fine. When I grew up, there was this TV show with Miami Vice with Don Johnson, and he had a cool dude jacket on like that every single day of the week.
thank you.
So, Kevin, I know you're studying cloud architecture. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And so I forget, is this going to be your first tech job, or did you have another job in tech? So I just know how to guide the question.
I had a subtle job in tech in a medical database department, but I can't really say it's like cloud native. So it's somewhat tech job.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be cloud native, but so you worked with databases, you said?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Cloud. I worked on a database in the data center. I worked on a database in the cloud. Guess what? For the most part, it's the same database anyway. Because if we use a cloud proprietary one, we can only do a single cloud. So it's going to be the same Oracle, MySQL, so all good.
Also, it was definitely connected to the cloud. So yeah,
What's that?
it wasn't a database, data center. So yeah.
Yeah, data center, cloud, just another data center. So tell me about yourself, Kevin.
Thank you for asking. And also, I appreciate this opportunity for the practice interview. So I'm Kevin Gajai. I am an architect at Glow Cloud Careers. I've had several years of cloud experience when working in a medical database department and also as an electrical contractor. It was within these fields where I realized that databases and networking was the future for me and the world, especially in the cloud. It was after those experiences I decided to immerse myself in multiple cloud projects and courses to strengthen, solidify my skills as an architect. And it directly led me into a career in Go Cloud, where I was able to really further my career as a well-rounded architect.
Absolutely love that. So, in your words, could you tell me what is a database and why we would use them?
It's a good question. I would have to describe a database as a place to store, let's give an example like a bank, where these are sensitive information and widespread. People's bank account numbers, names, the amount in their account, what kind of transactions they're doing, being able to store big amounts of data in an area and be able to make it accessible at a moment's notice.
Ah, that's a fantastic definition of a database. I like to see if somebody knows it. And if they can take something and explain it quickly, they know it. And if they babble for 10 minutes long, I know they don't. So excellent answer there.
Thank you.
So let's get involved in the storage. When do I use block storage? When do I use object storage? And when would I use file storage, like a file server?
So block storage. The most ideal case for block storage is when working with VMs. When your application needs storage that's able to be persisted with like your application, your web servers, block storage is the way to go. When it comes to object storage, that's more so for static content, whether it be pictures, videos. This is where you want to store those types of information on the internet. And specifically files, I'm glad you added that on because the way the cloud works, they make it so agile where they actually optimize specific storage for certain things. And file storage is exactly for that. When it comes to documents and files, that's the ideal place to have those and store them on the internet.
Okay, very good. So what, in your own words, is identity and access management?
So identity and access management is a service that allows to dictate who has access to your cloud environment, what resources and actions they're able to partake in, and also the recording and logging of what they do and when they do it.
Good. Why would I choose a next generation firewall over something like an AWS WAF if I'm dealing with an environment that requires security?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. In this day and age, the amount of cloud providers available is countless. But the one thing you really need is a non-proprietary service that's able to persist no matter what. And next generation firewalls, specifically companies like Cisco, you're able to not only have a firewall that's able to persist no matter what, but also ensure that your business continuity is always there.
In addition to being something we can use across any clouds, are there any special features or functions that are different about next generation firewalls and the way they stop attacks as opposed to a traditional firewall?
So the addition of just the natural firewall features, next generation specifically, has additional IPS and IDS, which is intrusion prevention and intrusion detection service, which actually allows it to take action against these attacks. Whereas regular firewalls is more so like they notify you it's happening.
Okay, so in other words, we want to actually stop the attack with a next generation firewall, as opposed to have a traditional firewall. And once the attack occurs, we're just told, hey, by the way, you're attacked, you're attacked.
Precisely. You want to be proactive about it, and that's why we use that service.
Okay, very good. Very good. I have a subnet, 172.16.1.2, with a 30-bit subnet mask, 255.255.255.252. Where does that subnet begin and where does it end? I'll give you the address again. 172.16.1.2, 255.255.255.252.
I'm glad you asked me this question. I sadly have not had the opportunity to work with such technology, especially networking, but I'll be glad to learn that and put as much energy as I can, as long as it benefits their business and what your goals are.
Okay. So let's, when would I use a NoSQL database versus a relational database?
So I'd prefer to focus on SQL first because I feel the amount of attributes it comes with when it comes to real-time analysis, accuracy and just a low latency, that's where you want to use sequential databases, especially when it comes to streaming, logging data, especially when it comes to things like patient records for hospitals and also banks, coming back to that example. Whereas no SQL, it's more so adaptable and just taking in mass amounts of information like log analytics and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm liking that answer. I really am. So good answers on that. So, why should I hire you?
Glad you asked that. So I bring particular and sorry about that. I bring specific leader attributes when it comes to motivating teams and also just making sure to understand the people I work with and where they best fit. I'm constantly and forever a student and make sure to learn as much as I can to better my clients and my businesses. And when it comes to my energy, I feel like people, that's all I got.
Let's do that part again. Why should I hire you? I want to make sure you.
I believe what I bring to the team are specific leadership qualities that will benefit your business. I believe I can motivate people as much as I possibly can by getting to know them and see where they best fit within specific groups. I am forever a student and always willing to learn and put in the extra work, especially when it comes to bettering my clients and my businesses.
Better.
Thank you.
Better. Okay, so Kevin, very solid, by the way.
Thank you.
Little weak on the network, but we'll fix that.
Thank you.
You've only had how long to learn this from me?
Like about 2 months.
Okay, 2 months. So, 3 months from now, you'll be hired somewhere because that was really, really rock solid. You played to your strength. I'm forever a student. I love that because you're young, which means you have less experience, but you're showing that you want to get better every day. That I loved. I asked you a question, you didn't know it. That's okay. You showed me you were hardworking, motivated, and willing to do it. Loved it. The tell me about yourself was perfect. The technology answers, except for that, were perfect. You didn't get bogged down in the weeds. Now, if you were an engineer, I'd need you to get bogged down in the weeds. But as an architect, no, I wanted you to keep it business level and speak on transformation, and you did pretty perfect with that. And you're what, 25 years old, 24 years old?
I'm 22 years old.
22 years old. You're going to be my next Daniel Bosu or Delroy Bat that's working as a cloud architect in their early 20s.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good job, Kevin. Really good job. I wish I knew what you knew at 22 years old.
I'm forever grateful. I'm forever how I won't say it's easy, but the amount of shortcuts I'm able to take, I don't want to make that take for granted at all. I'm trying to use it as much as I can. So I appreciate being in this program every second of it.
Well, thank you, Kevin. As you know, what I try to do is I tried to take 10 years worth of stuff and boil it down to something that I could teach in 4 to 12 months. And,
Thank you.
It's working. You guys are really doing great. I'm just so excited for you, Kevin. Thank you.
Down to even yesterday. I'm about to even take a little more time than I should. Just that Bastion host example that you gave that almost got you fired.
Yes.
I would never have to go through that thanks to you.
That's the whole point. That's why I was trying to create a coaching program so nobody has to make the same mistakes. That's why I talk about not getting 10x certified. Exactly. Wow. I wish I was in your position at 22 years old. But, I'm thrilled with the way things turned out. I met my wife in nursing school of all places. So we all go on our own journeys. But Kevin, great job. Great job. As you can tell, I'm really happy. Really nice job.
I can't hold it in right now. I'm so excited about what you just said to me. So I appreciate it.
I'm so excited. Really, I'm totally excited. Let's give everyone, even Marla is doing a cloud hired Kevin. Well, Marla is about as senior a leader as you're ever going to get and classy in every way, shape, or form. But she saw it like I saw it. So loving this. Kevin, great job.
Thank you.
You can tell I'm excited, clearly. Moved by this day.
All right. Well, that was good.
That was really good.
Not just good, but
Beyond good.
All right. Well, so thank you, Kevin. I know we'll be seeing you in a few months, but
yeah, in a video, in a cloud hired video.
Yep. So let's see. I'll bring in the next person, but before I do that, let's give Kevin a cloud hired or a cloud architect. I was working on something else. So was it architect or engineer? I'm sorry. Architect. All right, let's give him a hashtag cloud architect and hashtag cloud hired.
And let me answer Al's question real quick. Al said, please give us some guys some inspiring words. Al, I just filmed a new video on how to get hired at any age. Every one of us at every age has something special. In our youth, we can be like Kevin and say, we learn fast and we work. When we're in our 40s and 50s, oh, we can say, we can still learn, but we've got experience and wisdom and we've already made the mistakes. And if we're 65, guess what? Or 70, we've got a lifetime worth of wisdom and experience. We're a treasure chest of experience. We play that game. We don't learn as fast, but we can guide and mentor. So it doesn't matter where we're at. We can all play the game. Al, all of us. The game's just different. We play different positions on the field based upon our age. Now I'm an advisor. When I was younger, I was hands on the command line. Love that too.
All right. So thank you, Kevin. You can close out the browser. And,
please join us on YouTube. Get the info.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. So just going to put it out there. So we have had some people that have ghosted us and just decided that they were not going to show up. So we've got more slots available. If anybody wants to join up with us, send an email to me at admin@gocloudcareers.net. So we've got some slots we can fill up. I've still got a few more people I'm going to bring in to Mike, but definitely send me an email at admin@gocloudcareers.net, and we can squeeze a few more people in.
Absolutely.
And,
let's help as many people as they can.
Yeah. So, all right. And let's see. I believe. Let me look at my list here. Okay, we've got. Oh no. So that one left. Okay, look like we have Martin's up next. There we go. Hey, how's it going?
Good. And you?
All right, I'm doing good. I'll hand you over to Mike now.
All right, good to be here. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Martins. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm very well. Thank you. And you?
Doing great.
Wow.
So we get to know who you are. What is your background?
Okay. I appreciate the opportunity. It's a very rare one here. I am Martin. I'm from Nigeria. I've never worked in tech. Okay. Currently, I work as a facility manager in a small church in Nigeria.
Okay.
But I've always been a tech enthusiast. I some couple of years back I stumbled on the word Kubernetes, and I got curious. It sounded exotic and all. Then eventually I didn't pursue it. Then a couple of years later, I stumbled on the word serverless, and I'd be like, wow, is that even possible? So I started exploring, started checking, then I got into the cloud, and somehow AWS came into the picture. For the records, I just got my AWS Solutions Architect certification this morning.
Okay, great. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So basically, I have been trying my hands here and there. Nothing professional, nothing, just me, trying to put things together online, right?
So one is good. Whether you want to be a cloud architect or cloud engineer, I promise you can. If I told you that I'm working right now with over 300 Nigerian students that are getting hired every single day, and more than 300 Cameroonian students, your neighbors, and they're getting hired every single day, you can get hired too. And I've got students in Lagos, I've got students all over Nigeria, as well as neighboring countries, Benin, and Gabon, and all kinds of other local countries. So fantastic. That's always been kind of like the Silicon Valley tech capital of Africa. And I don't know what's going on, but I got to tell you, it's turning into the cloud computing capital of the world too. And I think that's exciting.
That'd be nice.
I'm going to ask, now we're going to do it like an interview. The first question of an interview sets the tone. Oh, by the way, what do you desire to be, a cloud architect or a cloud engineer?
Well, listening to you, I think I would rather be a cloud engineer.
Okay, then we'll base it on being a cloud engineer. Both great jobs. Cloud engineer is the hands-on technical. Cloud architect is the design, present, and sell.
Yeah.
So, please tell me about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Martins, and I'm from Nigeria. I don't have a degree, but I'm an IT enthusiast. I've always loved the tech. I've always wanted to be in the tech. But somehow, because of my background and because of probably I can afford it, I sort of drifted a little bit. But every time I try to find my way back, like my church, I started like a volunteer. And eventually they saw how committed I was, and they started paying me to do stuff for them. I was able to put their routers together and try to get them to have access to the internet and stuff like that. But my official position is the facility manager, basically.
Well, so I see some leadership there. You may be doing one thing, but you're helping out in other departments. I really like that.
Sure.
So could you tell me, why would I use a load balancer in a web application?
Okay. A load balancer, first off, it's usually front-facing, and it helps you to route traffic to several servers or VMs. You could use, probably you have a server, several servers or web servers at the back end, and you want to route traffic to every one of them without whoever is accessing the network to be changing IP addresses all the time. And you want to use one single IP address, probably an elastic or a static IP address. That's where load balancer comes in. And sometimes too, you could use it for decoupling, probably place it in between two microservices, basically. Then a load balancer you could use for a lot of stuff. So sometimes you activate sticky sessions where someone who is accessing your servers would not lose their session. Instead of using stuff like probably Elastic Cache or maybe CDN, a content delivery device that caches stuff too. I don't know if I get that right.
But why am I using the load balancer? What's the point?
Okay, basically to route traffic, probably you have several servers and you want to route traffic to every one of them. Sometimes for you to be able to do some form of health check so that the load balancer can route the traffic to your servers that are healthy and using a single IP address.
Okay. All right, let's go with that for right now. Now, what's the difference between an access control list and a security group? What are they doing?
Okay. And a security group is more on the instance or the VM, while an access control list is on the subnet. For the access control list is stateless, while the security group is stateful, in the sense that you could decide to deny traffic both inbound and outbound on the NACO, while on the security group, once you allow a traffic, it means you've allowed it both inbound and outbound. Basically, it's stateful, and the NACO is stateless.
What does stateful mean?
Stateful in the sense that you could it's a two-way. You could either deny a traffic, you could either allow a traffic and deny the traffic when exiting.
Okay. You had mentioned Linux. How do I update the operating system? So let's say Ubuntu is the most common operating system on the cloud, Ubuntu Linux. How do I update an Ubuntu operating system with the most common up-to-date patches to make sure it's secure?
Okay. I know you would use a package manager, maybe like wget or yum.
It's an
or
Ubuntu.
apt-get.
It's an Ubuntu system.
Say?
It's an Ubuntu Linux system.
Ubuntu.
Or a
Okay,
Debian
that would be an apt-get. Then the I don't know what was that called?
It'd be a sudo apt
The path,
update.
the path for the okay, the update. Okay, just an update. Yeah, it should be apt-get
update.
update. Yes, it should be apt-get update.
Yeah, sudo apt-get update, and on Linux or Red Hat it would be a yum dash update, but that's okay.
Sudo apt-get update. Yeah,
and that's fine. So when you're dealing with securing a web server, how do we do it?
Securing a web server. What do you mean? In what sense now?
Let's
Generally,
just say we've got the web server itself. We can assume that the firewalls, IDSs are all doing those things. What do we have to do on the server to make sure that it's secure, that it's hardened and not open to be hacked?
Okay, you could. That's where the ACO comes in, and that's where the security group comes in too. These are devices you'd use to protect which traffics are allowed into the server or out of the server. So basically, you use those firewalls to do that.
Okay. And well, I'll go through the answers with these, by the way. I'll give you you have to create a subnet. The subnet needs 120 hosts. Could you tell me what kind of a subnet mask would give you a subnet that would enable you to have 120 hosts?
Okay. That would be a slash say slash 20
slash 25
slash 25.
Yeah, but that's okay. And let's do one more. Why should I hire you?
Okay. I think you should hire me because I have a lot to bring to the table. I have passion. I am self-motivated. I can take anything that's thrown at me, and I'm a lifelong learner.
Okay. So good. Add a little more energy and enthusiasm to that, and it's good. So let's walk through the technology piece here, and let's go through them. When I asked you how to lock down a web server, I wanted you to know that the systems themselves are not secure. That in order for the system, you'd need to disable all the unnecessary services, patch the system to lock it down for any kind of weaknesses, add some anti-malware protection, add a host-based firewall, and maybe even attach a host-based IDS IPS system, in addition to all those other things. So there's that. The reason we use a load balancer is to increase the performance and availability of the systems. It increases performance by enabling us to load share across multiple devices, which eliminates single points of failure. So the rationale behind the load balancer was kind of not there. I can tell what you've done so far is you've done certification training. You're just missing the cloud training. And that's okay. And that's why we created our training, because the certification training is more the name of the service. The basic subnetting thing, that's simple math. I've got a free 4-hour subnetting workshop. Go watch it. It'll explain that to you. You're going to need it for everything. Now, you really need to understand what stateful means. Stateful does not mean you don't need to apply it in two different directions. Let's pretend right here that my cell phone is a stateful firewall. I am sitting here and I want to go to the website www.gocloudcareers.com. So this iPhone is my firewall. So I type www.gocloudcareers.com on my firewall. My traffic goes through the firewall into the internet. Now, when my traffic goes through the firewall pays attention and says, this is Mike Gibbs traffic going to Go Cloud Careers. Now, when I open that TCP connection with that web server, I add a SYN, and the firewall looks at it and says, Mike Gibbs is going to that web server. When that web server responds, it comes back to the firewall, and the firewall says, that traffic's destined for Mike Gibbs. Mike already asked for it. Give it to him. By comparison, if there's a Cindy the cat on the internet, and she's a hacker, I have a cat named Cindy, and if Cindy the cat was trying to come in, she would not be allowed. So stateful doesn't mean that you only need to apply it in one direction. It means that something is actually tracking the state of the connection. Now, the good news is I can see you're doing your certification because you did know the difference between a network ACL, which protects the subnet, and the security group, which protects the host. That was good. So I can see you've got the certification piece down. It's the cloud piece that's missing. So, there's a couple ways. Obviously, we could train you, but if there's challenges with that, I understand it. We have almost a YouTube video of the day coming out from now on. I've got about 20 interviews on cloud interview 20 videos on interview techniques. And when I do them, I actually teach you the actually underlying technology. So please watch that. What you have working for you right now is your energy, enthusiasm, and passion are really great. You're extremely likable. And let me tell you, when it comes to hiring, likability is in the top 10 things that we're looking for. You just need some cloud engineer training, and that's okay. Right? We all need training. We're not born knowing these things, but I believe you can get it. And I believe you can do great. You just need more than certification. By the way, everybody needs more than certification. It's not just you Martins. So, either you can get it from us or keep coming to our questions and answers. Keep asking questions. We'll always do what we can to guide you because I want you getting hired.
Great.
So whatever we have to do to help you, please just let us know. Obviously, I'd love to train you in our programs, but if not, even if you come to YouTube, we're going to be constantly doing as much free stuff as we can. Keep attending. We'll get you better.
Honestly, I'd love to join your program. Well, it's a little pricey for me now, but I'll try to raise the money though.
I totally understand. And in the meantime, keep taking our free stuff.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
As much free stuff as you can. We've got another free book coming out most likely soon. Download our free book on things. Attend any free webinar we have in the meantime, and let's do anything we can to help you.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mike Gibbs.
See you here, Martin. Great job, actually. You're learning.
Thank you,
keep pushing it. You will be successful.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You will be there.
All right. Good job. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Seriously.
All right. So you can close your browser and join us over on YouTube.
But seriously, the energy and enthusiasm to join us here, that tells me you will win. You're going to get there. Just keep grinding it out.
All right.
Good to see you.
All right. So you're definitely familiar with the next one. They volunteered in class, so we will bring them in. Give me just a second.
Cool.
Surprise.
Leonardo Souza, how are you?
Hello,
actually, Leonardo, last night around 10 o'clock, I actually was thinking of you.
Yeah,
the reason that happened, I left my house and I walk outside and I hear this mew, mew, mew. And I look across the street and I see my cat Cindy is sitting on my neighbor's roof, like 30 feet in the air. And I knock on the door and the person answers the door and I said, "Are you Brazilian?" And he said, "How'd you know?" I said, "Well, your accent sounds Brazilian." And then I was like, and then I was thinking, well, I usually speak to 2 Brazilian people each day, you and usually Leo. Or Leo from my team said there was that in the head. But anyway, I call 911, the fire department. As I'm getting on the phone with the fire department, the cat jumps off the roof and then comes up against me and rubs up against my leg. So a little bit scary. But my Cindy is my little angel. She's doing great today. Apparently cats can climb a roof and jump off the roof and still be okay.
So everything is okay with Cindy. So she jumped healthily.
Jumped off the roof. It's like she spread her legs and parachuted down to the ground.
That's
Ate
amazing.
some fresh tuna.
Great, great. Happy to
Very
see you.
So it's so great to see you. Leonardo, I know you've been our student now for a couple months. What's your background, by the way?
My background, I'm a senior software engineer for so very long, and I joined your program. I'm more effort on this around 3-4 months. Amazing.
Okay, fantastic. So let's start with some basic, things. We'll gradually get uglier and uglier and uglier. So could you tell me when I would use a relational database versus a NoSQL database?
Sure. A lot of people think that either relational database or NoSQL, but we can use both on an application. Relation database for transactions, transactions that we need to store. So I mean, well, you people said here about banking. So well, I cannot do a payment if I don't have enough balance in my bank account. So a transaction needs to be consolidated. And NoSQL database, we can use that as something that we can scale very high, and for let's say not so consistent as a transaction database. Let's say in a web application, I can get the product catalog of online retailer, put it on a NoSQL database, and put it in front of the relation database. Yeah, this would be in 60 seconds explanation.
Love that, by the way. So let's get into some other concepts. What is RAID 0?
RAID 0. First, what is RAID? It's a redundant array of inexpensive disks. Why should we use that? Well, when we want to have a bunch of disks together, and we have more performance on that because it's a bunch of disks together. But the problem of RAID 0 is we have speed, but we don't have redundancy. So if some disk fails, let's say I have 5 disks, writing disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, disk 4, disk 5. If disk 3 fails, my whole bunch of disks fails. I don't have the data, because if I have just 90% of the data, but not 1%, I cannot access the data. So for that, we have solution RAID 1 and RAID 10, but it is another kind of RAID.
I'm really liking that. That's terrific. So now let's talk about block storage versus object storage. What do you use and when?
Block storage is very suitable for databases and operational systems, for something that you have that changes a lot along the time. And object store, let's say, you write once and you read many times. So it's another perspective. Both are great technologies. They are SAN, so storage area network. So we can detach the storage from the server. So there are a lot of benefits on that. But of course, we need to know the business case when you use one or another one.
What happens with object storage if I have something like a swap file that changes constantly? Why is that not suitable? Why is object storage not suitable for things that change frequently?
Wow, it can be quite problematic. Why? Object store, by default, it keeps versions of your document. Let's say for people who uses Microsoft Excel, Word, all the day long, if they change something on this file, on the disk, on the storage, is going to create a new version of these documents, the same name, but a new version of that. So think about along the day. Let's think about the swap in our operational system that changes a lot. So you can fill up your storage like that in a second. And the point is, if you are on the cloud, some people get used, let's say, by Amazon, that the object storage from them, S3, the version are disabled by default. So they did this feature, but in the end, wow, there's a native feature from the object store. Yeah, but this is a small detail.
Nice job there, Leonardo. So let's get involved in some other concepts.
Sure.
So let's talk about how you would secure your enterprise from the outside in.
Well, first thing that I would think is to talk to security experts, because security is such a broad topic. I'm aware that we need to do this in layers, so not only on the network, but on the applications. So we need to get a lot of people involved on that. I'm not expert to tell you, to be honest, how you should do this point by point. But what I know, we can start from a firewall, implement a next generation firewall, have redundancy of this firewall, so that has a functionality of IDS, IPS, intrusion detection and the prevention system. After that, we can secure the perimeter of our network. So with access control list, in that case, Amazon NACO, network access control list, Google Cloud Platform that I love is firewall rules. On top of that, a firewall on the host, on the instance, security groups, and keep going on that. But this is a long topic, and I believe you as expert, you can talk all the night long about that. But I'm not so expert, just to let you know about this.
Well, you're not so expert. Told me to start with the next generation firewall, use an access control list, and go to a security group. That's pretty darn solid. So
thanks to you.
So I like when people realize that it's not their strength and still know more than 2/3 of the people they claim it's their strength. So good job there.
Thank you very
So
much.
let's go with the basic subnetting question. We've got a subnet 172.16.1.9.
Okay.
With a 30-bit subnet mask, meaning 255.255.255.252. It's a .9. So where does that subnet begin? Where does it end, and what are the usable addresses in between?
Well, taking the math on this, I can tell you that when we have a /3 network, so we are going to have 2 available address plus 2 another address. That the first one is going to be the network address, and the last one the broadcast. In that case, you said .9. So I would say it starts on .8. The network. 9 and 10 are the available usable IP address that we can connect point A to point B, route router to another router. And the following one is the broadcast. This is the logic that I would apply.
Okay, that is perfect and exactly expert and the right answer. So Leonardo, why should I hire you?
Wow, I believe that given the need that your company has for this position and my background, I'm highly energetic. People say that I'm very friendly and I can explain some stuffs friendly. So I see this position that you have suits me very well. It's going to be something meaningful for me. That means that I would be willing to do everything for working for that. I believe this is a good reason.
Yeah, now here's a question for you. Now I know Portuguese is your primary language.
Perfect.
And you're living in Germany, is that correct?
Perfect. Yeah,
you're speaking German at work, right?
Yeah, a bit more. Most of the time, English. So not Portuguese at all, but English all day long. German I need it because documents, so on. So translations. And apart from that, my girlfriend is Polish. I'm learning Polish. It's amazing. So wow.
Okay, the point is you delivered a very solid interview in a language that's not your primary one. That's not easy to do. Now, everything about that was good. What you played to was your energy, your enthusiasm, passion. It's clear you're competent. You're highly likable. I'd hire you to work on my team. There's not a question in my mind, Leonardo.
Thank you very much.
I would instantly hire you. There's no question on my mind. Now, if you could make your point, pause, make your next point, you'd have what's called a little more executive presence or a little more gravitas, which would get you better jobs. You're hireable in either case. But let's try this. Let's try and next generation firewall is adaptive in nature. Try that.
Okay. Talking about the next generation firewall.
Same words. I just want to do this until you get that
Okay.
executive presence.
Yeah. So about the next generation firewall, unlike the traditional firewalls, has a feature that can adapt to the environment or the information that are filtering on that. The traditional firewall, how it acts. It looks for something, can block or deny. But once you get hacked, it's just going to provide the information that you are hacked. The difference is, in a next generation firewall is going to adapt, have an intelligence to analyze what is going on and try to block on that. Not only saying, "Well, you have been hacked," but also something that was going on and we blocked. Like when you are traveling around the road with a credit card and you get your credit card blocked, as I did with in some countries around the world. I said, well, what's going on? So someone was monitoring, said, oh, this is an anomaly, block it.
Good, but I want you to do this specific. I just want to focus exclusively on executive presence.
Yeah.
So I want you to use these words and say it until we get it. My cat Cindy unplugged my next generation firewall. I'll do it again. I can say it two ways. I want the executive presence. I don't want it to sound like my cat Cindy unplugged the next generation firewall. So tell me, my cat Cindy unplugged the next generation firewall. Let's do this, and we're going to do it 2 or 3 times until I see that maximum power.
Good. My cat Cindy unplugged my next generation firewall.
Now with more energy, my cat Cindy unplugged my next generation firewall. You can use your hands too.
Yeah. My cat Cindy unplugged my next generation firewall.
Better. We'll do it again.
Thank
My
you very
cat
much.
Cindy unplugged my next generation firewall.
My cat Cindy unplugged my next generation firewall.
Okay, better.
Oh, thank you very much for practicing teaching me so much.
And it's that executive presence that makes you feel bigger. So
Yeah.
when you're around for a long time, it's going to get you paid more. When you talk to the CEO, you must have that. It's called executive presence.
Yeah,
But
working
when
that.
it's in an interview, if you're marginal in either case, the person with the executive presence is going to be hired over the person with more experience.
Yeah, good point to go for that. Yeah, I'm on that. I also got a good feedback from Leo Prates. Yeah, we are going on. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you very much.
Very solid job. Excellent on the tech. And this is not in your primary language. This is even better. Can't even imagine what this would look like in Portuguese, honestly, because if it's this good in English. So great job, Leonardo. Keep it up. A couple months, you're going to have yourself something fantastic.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a nice evening.
So
I will go to YouTube. Bye-bye.
All right, that was a good job from Leonardo.
Really was.
Yep. So we've got a couple of people that are going to be unavailable with cameras, but their microphones are working.
That's fine.
So let's bring in our first one. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. I believe it's Scap.
That is absolutely perfect, Chris.
Hey, all right.
You can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Hey,
so
Mike.
Hi, Scap. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm doing great. And you?
Awesome.
So what career is it that you're looking for?
Cloud architect.
And what's your background?
Mike, I have 15 years of experience in IT into the infrastructure. My core area is the virtualization, whether it's a Hyper-V or the VMware. I have understanding on the Active Directory on Windows. I started my career with that. Yeah, and obviously while working in IT so long, I have an understanding of the storage as well as a little bit about networking as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is block storage? I'm sorry, tell me what is object storage, how does it work, and why should I use it?
So object storage is first we need to understand the actual purpose and why it has been discovered or being implemented. Earlier, we used to use the block storage, which is a storage area network. Now, the object storage is how the file will be stored on the storage. So each file, each object, each content like image files or the text file or anything, these are considered as an object. Each object have a metadata on it. So when you put a file, it creates a metadata and it which help to search for the file. So it is fast and scalable, highly available. There are a couple of the industry expert vendors who are providing object storage as a service, like AWS, Azure, Google, GCP. They have their own names, and object storage can be accessed through the internet. Normal public nowadays we use the OneDrive from Microsoft or the Dropbox. So these are the object storage. It's easily accessible, highly scalable, and reliable, and durable as well. That's the purpose and the use of this object storage.
Okay, so a couple things. You still didn't tell me what it is. But before we get into that, you said object storage is new. Is it new storage?
It's not a new storage. It's a service. It's a concept. It's a platform which has been introduced. It is still residing on a storage area network behind the need, which we don't see it. But it is the structure how it is being. It's object storage. The structure how the file will be stored. It is using the versioning and it have a metadata each object.
Yeah, but you said it's new. Have we not been using object storage for over 30 years now?
What I meant is being introduced or being presented to the normal public. What we as per my understanding, I could be 100% wrong, but when I talk about the cloud and all those actually implemented the object storage and give it to us. Okay.
This is 3+ decade-year-old data center technology. It's not new to the cloud.
Okay,
but that's okay. So why is it worm storage? Write once, read many times.
I'm sorry, come again.
Why is it considered worm storage? Write once, read many times.
You're talking about the read consistency, I believe. So when you write the data, you can immediately read it and within the same time. But when you I'm sorry, I will pause this question. I don't want to attempt this.
Okay, yeah, you were going down a database question, a database answer versus an object storage answer. So that's fine. So what's the difference? You'd said block storage is what we used to use. We actually used to use file storage. Block storage is about the same age as object storage. So when would I use file storage versus when would I use block storage in the cloud environment?
Right. So the block storage, first I would like to answer the block storage, then I will move forward with the file storage. So block storage is a storage area network. How it works is it's like we have computers which are connected to the internet or the network through the Ethernet port. When you connect to the storage, you actually connect through the HBA. Each HBAs have NNA IDs. The HBA IDs. Like we have an Ethernet MAC address for the NIC, right? So you connect that HBA to the fabric switch, and then the fabric switch will connect to the storage box. It's a huge box which have a bunch of disks attached to it, and for those group of disks, you can configure the RAID. Now, when we say block, the block means is how the files or the data will be stored on those disks. It is saved as on a block or chunk of blocks. The block size could be different, like 64 KB or 1 MB block size and all that. So your files are stored on each block. So let's assume that you have 2 MB of file. So that file is actually stored on 2 blocks, because if it is configured as a 1 MB block size beneath. So that's a very high level. Now, why we use it? It is general. You can start. It's the storage where you run the operating system. You can install the operating system with whatever it is, and like virtualization layer like VMware and all those, they use the block storage on the back end, and so that you can run the virtual machines on it. It is highly available, provide a speed, but it also depends and how is your SAN or the fabric switch and all those underlying fabric cables are being put in there. Now, the file storage on the other end, it works on the hierarchy basis. It have a structure, folder structure basis. It have two different ways. Those are still, there are a couple of vendors like Hitachi, NetApp, and all those. They also provide a VNX and all those. They can be used as an NFS storage. NFS is also a file-based storage. Uh, and you can set up the permissions. So the major difference which I see, Mike, is the file storage, you can set up the permissions for the folders and the files which are inside, but not on the SAN. You cannot set the permissions for the end users or the Active Directory integration with the SAN or the block storage. You can only present and zone it.
So if I've got something that needs to be used by one server, what am I using, block storage or file storage?
Come again, I'm sorry, I missed it.
If I've got storage that needs to be accessed by a single server, only one server, what kind of storage should I use?
Well, that would be block storage. If you are booting the server from, if your intention is to boot the server or power on the server, then you will use the block storage.
What if I want to use, what would I use? What if I have many servers that want to access the same file at the same time?
Definitely, in that case, you will use the NFS or the file storage, because that needs to be accessed by multiple systems at the same time.
Could I use a virtual machine? Could I make blocks? Can I turn block storage into file storage?
Can you use what?
Could I, in a virtual machine, turn its block storage into file storage?
Can you convert your virtual machine into block storage and the file storage?
Can I convert my virtual machine's block storage hard drive into file storage? And if so, how?
No. When you create a virtual machine, either it is VMDKs in the VMware environment, it is actually a file that's stored on the block. You cannot configure it as a file system. You have to install or use the service file system inside the OS, whether it is a Linux or the Windows. In the Windows case, you use the file service, install the role file service role, and if it is a Linux server, you configure the NFS, and that will provide the path to the end users or the file structure path for the NFS.
Say that one more time, because you said I can't do it, but I can definitely take my block storage hard drive and convert it into a file storage for other systems to use.
So what you're trying to say here is, so you need a block storage to boot up the OS. Once you have an OS running inside the OS, you can configure it as a file storage or the file server, right? Whether it is NFS or the Windows file server, right? But the point here is, you need an operating system which can only be done on the block storage. Now you can say, in other words, that I have an NFS and I can mount the NFS to the ESX host, and that NFS can be used as install the operating system, but that is it actually storing the VMDKs files, not actually the operating system from the NFS point of view.
Right. But I could obviously share a block storage VM and create a file server and share that out to the world.
Right. So you need to use a service to do so.
So I've got two equal cost direct connections to AWS. One is on Verizon and one is on AT&T, and I don't want to get out of order packets. How could I do this?
I will pass this question because I don't understand it correctly.
Okay, that's fine. What kind of a DNS policy could I set up to send 25% of my traffic to the data center, 25% of traffic to AWS, and 50% of my traffic to Azure?
What kind of a DNS policy? Are you referring specifically to Route 53?
No, I'm referring to DNS, whether it's F5 DNS, Route 53, Azure DNS, Google DNS, F5 DNS, because we can't use Route 53 in a multi-cloud environment. We need
right. And is that be somehow related to the cross? I pass it. I don't want to. I have qualified this, but I don't want to mess around.
That's fine. What are the 3 things that could take a single cloud down, no matter how no matter how many regions and availability zones you use?
3 servers which can take
the three problems that could take an entire cloud computing environment down, which is why a single cloud is a single point of failure. There's 3 major failures.
The power.
Power can't take down a whole cloud. I know AWS told us they had a power failure, but data centers have redundant power companies, redundant generators, redundant batteries. So that can't do it. So what 3 things can take down a single cloud?
Network can bring it down. Security, if it is breached.
Yeah, there are 2 of the 3.
Network security, and that's what's coming into my mind.
Okay, that's fine. So now, why should I hire you?
I'm highly motivated. So I'm in industry since 15 years. What I believe is I love to do, which I love to do. So if I'm in industry since 15 years, definitely I love this technology. I'm highly motivated and excited to learn more new things. I keep on learning every day. And this is, as I am on the virtualization technology, it's like since, I would say since 2017, 2016, and I was very much in depth into it. And cloud, any cloud is like one step forward. So I see this is my next path going forward, and this will enhance my skill. And definitely, um, I I believe in myself and think that I will be the right candidate for the company.
Okay, so let's go through this towards the end. In the end, why I should hire you, convince me all the reasons not to hire you. And I'll explain to you. I'm not hiring you to increase your skill. I'm hiring you because I've got work that needs to be done in the company, and I want you to help the company be more profitable. So if I should hire you because you've got a good technology background, great. You love the tech, great. Your background can help me be more successful, great. But the second you make it about you, ask about the work-life balance, tell me about learning, I'm instantly done. The interview's over. So keep that in the back of your mind. I'm not looking to hire somebody to train them. I'm looking to hire someone to help do some work for us.
Okay.
Now, when I went through this, a couple things were kind of obvious to me. You need to learn storage.
Okay.
Because without it, you're not going to be in the position to really design anything.
Right.
So block storage, object storage, file storage. Look, when I store a file on a hard drive, it's usually stored in a block, even though that's not block storage. You really have to understand the idiosyncrasies of object storage, how the reason it's worm storage is if anything changes or gets modified, it creates new versions and fills it up. Object storage is 30 plus years old. It's not brand new. We've been using it for decades in the data center. It's not new at all. Block storage is, again, another 20, 30-year-old technology plus. And we typically use block storage as a virtual hard drive, whereas we're using object storage as software distribution, backup, and archival purposes, etc., because of the metadata. On the networking side, it felt very weak, and the network is the foundation of all virtualization, so we need some more networking. The DNS, you've got lots of routing policies, but typically speaking, you would use weighted routing or something like weighted routing in order to go to load share at a specified policy. Think of it this way. You got a new application and a new website. You want to send 10% to the new website and 90% to the old one. You'd use like a weighted routing policy.
Okay.
I'd say weak on the networking, weak on the storage, weak on the explanations. Now, here's what I mean by that. If you've been working in tech for 15 years, I think you know a lot more than you actually came across. I couldn't tell that you knew what you probably do know by the way you communicated it. So I would practice doing the following. I'd go over the technology. What is the tech? How does the tech work? And why I should use this. And that way I would do this. So, for example, I would cover it that way. So you've got to get your block storage, object storage, and file storage down, Pat. I actually do believe you understand the virtualization and the hypervisors, but it wasn't clear in the way you communicated. I believe it's there. You need to show me, the hiring manager, why I need to hire you, which means how are you going to help me solve my problem of getting my things deployed faster, getting things deployed better? How do you solve my problems?
Right.
Definitely build your networking fundamentals, because without the network, there's nothing. And if you actually remember the questions, I can actually go for the answers. It just
Right. You had about that Verizon and AT&T question, that one.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, right. So if I've got 2 equal cost paths to the cloud, I have to use BGP. So I can leak a more specific subnet on one link and a different subnet on another link and equal the load share. I could change the weight of one route on this link and the weight of another route on this link. I could change the local preference on each link. So I could pretend the AS path to make one link look ugly and another look preferred if I chose to. I could change the origin code from incomplete to IGP, for example. I could change the multi-exit discriminator. These are my nerd knobs, as we like to call it, tune. So there was that. What other networking one did I give you? Did I give you a subnetting one?
No, you did not.
Okay.
The only one question you asked me on the networking was the one which you answered. So when you say the equal pathing, do you provide one subnet? When you say that you are sending one subnet to this path, one subnet to other parts, you don't send one subnet on both the paths. You have to divide it, right?
Well, if we send the identical subnet on 2 paths, what'll happen is our traffic will go out one link and come back on the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, if we've got 4 milliseconds on Verizon and 3 milliseconds on AT&T, if we go in link and go on both links back, what happens? We get out of order data, which is a nightmare. So, for example, if we had the 172.16.0.0 on one link and the 172.17.0.0 on another link, we're not going to have any out of order packets, because one subnet's going to be used for one and another for the other. Now, we might also have to put an aggregate address or a summary route on both for 172.16.0.0/15 instead of /16. In the event that either link where it was down, we'd be able to load share. We'd be able to use the backup link. So we always have to tune our traffic whenever we have more than one direct connection. Otherwise, we get an out of order data problem.
Okay. Right.
So that's just some basic networking that we're dealing with. So I'd say get crisper on explaining what is the tech, how does the tech work, and why to use it. I'd say get crisper on the networking things. Get crisper on the fundamentals like IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, DNS, DHCP, BGP. That's all networking fundamentals that are real critical. And I think, try it again in a couple months. I think you'll have a lot more of the knowledge on what to do, and I think you'll be in great shape.
Right. So you put the right point there. I believe that I know I have more information, more knowledge, but in the interview, that all that matters, but it matters to the point. I am giving a lot of information. Most of them are not needed or required during the interview. That's what I understand when you're saying. You are saying to put it in crisp and straightforward to the answer. But I was trying to explain to you all those back end things, which I believe was not interesting to the interview.
Well, it was two things. One is as you were getting into the back end, you were getting incorrect, which you started off with one thing, and then you kind of got there. I'll explain to you. When I asked, what happens if a single cloud would fail, you got the networking piece, which was good. You got the security piece, which was good, but you didn't think of that there's a control plane that orchestrates the cloud. So if the control plane gets hacked or goes down, poof, you lost everything. So it's more about being complete, highlighting what you have. So, for example, I asked you about object storage or block storage. Now, if you told me block storage is a type of storage area network, meaning the limitation is based upon the throughput, block storage, when the data gets put in the network, it breaks its data down into blocks. And that was fine when you did something like that. Now, file storage also gets stored in blocks, even though it's not block storage. So that's kind of where things started to go down as you were starting to talk about other storage platforms and getting things to be slightly incorrect. So there was that component of it where things started to break down. But it really needs to be, what is the tech, how does the tech work, and why do we use it? What is a load balancer? A load balancer is a device that improves performance and availability. The load balancer improves performance and availability by eliminating single points of failure and sharing the load across multiple devices. Organizations should use a load balancer because it makes them systems more available. It enables them to save costs by using smaller computers or servers, which are less expensive than bigger servers. And it can make sure that their systems are available by removing single points of failure, enabling businesses to be more profitable and be more agile. Does it feel different that way?
Right, right.
So what you have is the classic engineer syndrome, as you've worked as an engineer and now you desire to be an architect. And what you have to do, and I work with people that have no background and make them architects, and I work with people that have engineering backgrounds and make them architects. When you've been taught to think like an engineer your whole life, which is really zoomed in and focused on the one thing, you got to realize as an architect, you got to zoom out and truly focus on the big picture. So it's going to be a little retraining of your brain because you've got an engineering background.
That is correct, Mike.
I could tell by the way you answer these questions, you're an engineer. But we can make you an architect, but it's a totally different career. So as an architect, everything we do is about making some business more profitable. That's all we do. Business is being more profitable. We're trying to transform the business. So your customer is going to be a CEO, and they're not going to understand the technology as a rule. So you're going to have to make it simple, 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 and elegant. And also, when you make a point, pause, make your next point, you'll be good to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. A little bit of practice, you'll be in good shape.
Thank you, Mike. Have a nice day, Chris and Michael.
Have a nice day. Keep practicing it. You're going to be great.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of solid technical background there.
Yeah, I will talk to you again down the line in a few days.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So the next person I was going to bring in just dropped off. So I guess we will move on. I was going to bring Amy in. If Amy is still out there.
I'd love to interview an Amy.
Jeremy just made a comment in the chat box. Said the silence in the chat is uncanny. It's been a little quiet over there, so we need to get some activity.
Yeah, let's give a hand to was it Kapoor?
Scap.
It's not easy doing this.
No, it is not.
And he did very good. It's just that, if I interviewed in an engineering workshop, let me tell you, I'd come across like an architect, and I would need training to be the engineer. That's why I have cloud engineers teaching my cloud engineer course. Just different careers. It's just for every career we have, we just adapt to it. He did great.
Yeah. All right. So our next person is about to come right in. So we've got Dylan here. So let me.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Dylan.
Awesome. I'm doing quite well. I finally managed to get a webcam. Figured I'd make my debut coming out here.
Fantastic. Love that. Where are you, by the way?
I'm out in Alberta, Canada right now.
Haven't been there in a while. Enjoyed it. It was a little bit cold, but I really enjoyed it.
Oh, it's nice and warm out right now. It's 24 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, sounds cold to me. I had a 3-day business trip to Ottawa, which turned into 12 weeks in Canada over at Alcatel-Lucent. And then it was, hey, by the way, go to Calgary. Okay, that's fine. But I will tell you one thing that I learned, Dylan. I went out to Banff one weekend, and this is before I shattered my foot, and I went for a run. And I'm running in Banff, and I'm running, and I'm feeling so out of shape. Like, what's going on? Why am I out of breath? I'm like, I feel really bad. Did I eat something too bad out here? Did I have too many bonk-on wars with my friend Barrymore over there the day before? And too much steak? And then out of nowhere, I see people with these nasal cannulas and oxygen canisters on their bike. And I'm like, what's the altitude? They said down there it started at like 6,000 feet. You're at like 11,000 right now. How are you running? And I'm like, okay, well, now I know why I feel so bad.
Yeah, I've done much the same. Back in high school, we did a backcountry camping trip out through Banff that went up to a lake that was at 7,300 feet.
Yeah.
And or 7,300 meters? No, 7,300 feet.
Pretty high.
It was pretty high. Good hike though. Definitely a good hike.
Yeah, good workout too. I'll never forget it. So, Dylan, what's your background?
Primarily, I've been a quality manager in the oil patch for the last 5 years. Before that, I worked in fast food at McDonald's, and I'm on and off software developer, and I'm trying to become a cloud architect now.
Okay, sounds good. We all come from different backgrounds. Doesn't matter where you're from. Are you brand new, or you been working on this for a little while?
I've been in your course for almost exactly 2 weeks now,
Okay.
and I've gone through a bunch of the business developmental course side of it more so than the networking, but I am also working through the Wendell Odom books and a couple others that you recommended.
Good. Okay. So 2 weeks in my program, you're brand new, and that's okay. I just wanted to know how to position it. So I want you to position yourself to me and make sure you get across your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion, your capability to learn, your willingness to learn, your being a team player, because you don't have a big background. So you got to convince me without a background that I need you.
Absolutely.
I need to see that you're competent, energetic, enthusiastic, passionate. I'm looking for symbols of emotional intelligence. You'll be checking out leadership skills, your willingness to go above and beyond, and, whether you're a team player or not. So now that you know that, Dylan, tell me about yourself.
Absolutely. I've been a software developer for almost my entire life. My love with technology and IT in general really started at a very young age. I built my first computer with my father back when I was 6-year-old, and we still had to route around with the old ITX gray ribbon cables that had like 40 separate 20-gauge cables all together, and you had to try and wire the hard drive next to the CD-ROM and all this. It's so much nicer that we have SATA now. Other than that, I've done some business development courses throughout high school, and I ran my own business through there. That was quite successful. I did a couple of craft shows actually doing chainmail work that I sold about 4,000% in profit most of the nights that I was out. And at my last job with the quality management side there, I had 6,000 plus documents, about 6 gigabytes worth, and trying to find documents wasn't easy because the PDFs weren't indexed, so I went through and rebuilt a program to make it so that I could serve my customers and my business faster and more reliably, and that when I left the company, they were left in a better position than I was so that they could keep functioning.
Excellent. By the way, are you in a multiple monitor situation?
I am.
Okay.
And my camera's right in the middle.
Look at the camera.
Apologies.
So I'm just giving you some guidance because that way the people, they need to be able to feel you. I'm on a 3-monitor situation, so I look like this too. And it's, so Sam, if you want to be interviewed, just send an email to admin@GoCloudCarriers and we can fit in one more. Okay, so good. So, I love this. Could you give me an example of some software applications you developed?
Absolutely. So I have done a couple of different applications. The first one that I just told you about was my quality document control, which had I known the cloud at the time, I had just recreated an object storage with better indexing. Oh well, I did it from scratch and it was fun. Another one that I have created is that I was really into Forex back when I was 16, and so I went through the Oanda API, through their REST API, and I programmed a automatic algorithmic trading program for myself for when I was at high school. Wasn't very successful, but that was more to do with my trading strategy than with my programming skills. Otherwise, I have also done some work on game engines, and I have done some work on low-level stuff like FPGAs, and I've worked on some other things like floating point generation and a couple other low-level things there as well.
I love that. Where did you learn software development?
I've been self-taught for the most part. I actually went through and I learned Java in high school through grade 10. I was in grade 12 myself, and I was in the grade 10 class, and it's probably the best opportunity I've ever had because as I'm sitting there learning Java, I had already known C++ and C and Python beforehand. So for this, I had all of these grade 10s that had never programmed before, barely touched a computer, and I was able to mentor them in programming and whatnot, and they were at the grade 12 level when they left their first semester of programming. They're quite proficient at this point.
Love that. You mentioned REST API. What is a REST API?
So a REST API is a way for a web server or group of web servers to communicate with the outside world, basically. It's an application interface that allows you to access the servers behind the technology. So say you went to an ATM, you have to go and you have to put in your PIN and it has to validate. It would go through an API to validate the bank PIN and then come back and say, hey, I know who this person is. And I can take out $200, but no more because this ATM isn't with my bank. So I go and pull out $200 and all's good because it validated who I was based off of my PIN and my card. Something I have and something I know.
Something you have and something you know. Sounds like a pretty common security policy.
It's indeed probably one of the most effective security policies I know.
Can you give me some examples of something you have and something you know in security?
Absolutely.
IT security.
In IT security, there's a couple of different devices. There's a couple of for everybody, just at any organization, there is a perfect application for authenticators through the phone. They generate a one-time use case password, generally a 6-digit number that transfers every 30 seconds. And for somebody to break into your network now, they have to guess the encryption method, or guess the cryptographic method, and then guess what the seed was, so that they know what number you have, and then they have to get that number in time to get into your system. So you've raised your chances of blocking a hack almost exponentially with using multi-factor authentication. There's also, for higher security applications, physical USB keys and other keys that can help authenticate people based off of actually biometric identification.
Good. What is Active Directory?
Active Directory, I've actually not worked with Active Directory myself, but I do know a little bit about it. Active Directory is a Microsoft product that is used for what's known as AAA authentication, or it stands for authentication. I cannot remember what the acronym stands for, and this is why acronyms are bad.
You don't need to worry about the acronym, but
But,
just tell me what those 3 functions are that it does.
It logs who logs into your network, why they logged in, and what they did. Where they logged in from, and what time they logged in from.
Okay,
as well as who it was.
So who are you? What they're allowed to access and what they did, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's your authentication, authorization, and accounting. So what's the difference between RAID 0 and RAID 1?
The difference between RAID 0 and RAID 1, and I may get this backwards because it pops into my head backwards all the time, but RAID 0, I believe, is a striped drive, which would mean that all of your data is put across multiple hard drives, and if any one of those hard drives fails, you lose all of your data instantly. RAID 1, however, is designed for resiliency without speed, so it puts copies of the data on every single hard drive. Now you can combine them into what's known as a RAID array of RAID arrays, really awesome naming. This RAID array of RAID arrays would be called a RAID 10, and this would allow you to have the speed and performance of a RAID 0 array and have the resiliency of a RAID 1 array, both in one package while being slightly more expensive.
We got a little funniness going on the screen for a second. You back?
Yep.
I'm back? No, we both disappeared. Each one at a different second. So while we're at it, what's a demilitarized zone?
A demilitarized zone, absolutely. All right, so a demilitarized zone is part of a firewall or router, depending on if it's small office or enterprise grade. And it is a portion of the router or portion of the firewall that is outside of the organization's intranet, which is their internal sensitive network. And these demilitarized zones help segment the network in such a way that if an attack were to happen, it would be relegated to exactly that segment of devices. So if your web server was under a DDoS attack, your email servers would be fine, and your database would be fine, and everything else would be fine if your content delivery network didn't catch the DDoS attack in the first place.
Well, why should I hire you, Dylan? And I'm blown away. But
Absolutely.
I was not expecting, by the way.
Absolutely. Thank you. So the reason you should hire me is I'm absolutely obsessed with trying to make your business better. I have absolutely no goal except for making your business as profitable and as scalable as possible so that when I leave here, your business continues to boom as best as it can.
Okay, Dylan. I got to tell you, I was not expecting that cloud hired. I really wasn't. Now, you've been with me for how long?
2 weeks.
Have you been watching a ton of our videos before that?
About a month and a bit.
Okay. You went through a lot of our soft skills training recently? Business training? Okay. You've not been lazy. You've been going through this training fast.
Thank you.
I know who you are now. You're Dylan W from YouTube.
Yes.
I know exactly who you are now. You came around, asked questions for about a month, and they were all really smart questions. You signed up a couple of weeks ago. I've seen you in class with the camera off.
Yep.
You told me you couldn't turn on the camera. I remember, wow, very, 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 very solid. I'm so happy. That was solid, and more solid. Everybody, let's give Dylan a cloud hired. Now, I geared this towards more your strengths, but you hit that REST API, which I really liked. You hit the security context. They were really, really good. The Almighty's right. Smart dude. Yeah, seriously. Oh, I guess they have a warning on the coffee to tell you it's hot now ever since somebody got burned on coffee and sued somebody for getting burned because they didn't expect coffee to be hot.
That's a crazy story, actually. That was a McDonald's story.
Yes, it is.
And it was this poor old lady. They didn't tell her, but the machines are calibrated to 200 degrees to make sure the coffee, when you pour it, is hot, like 200 Fahrenheit, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
So when they gave it to her, they gave her a large coffee, and the lid comes off and it spills all over, and it's still 180 degrees Fahrenheit. They had to put on a caution cloth after that. The court didn't like that.
Yeah, the court didn't like it. I always knew coffee was hot, but that's just me.
Oh,
But,
yeah. I had hot coffee spilled on me twice when I was at McDonald's. It not great, but you get it off quick enough and you're okay for the most part.
I've had a lot of coffee spilled on me. I was a paramedic and I was always drinking coffee. Every day I had coffee spilled on me. It was just like, okay, I expected it. I just expected to get burned. Great job. Seriously, great job, Dylan.
Thank you.
Sorry, my phone's been beeping. I wouldn't normally check it, but my wife is actually flying home from Philadelphia.
Wonder what she could be flying home for.
To see Cindy.
Oh, to see Cindy. Not that there's anything happening next week. Okay.
Oh, of course, my birthday is next week, and my brother's coming next week, and all kinds of cool stuff.
Oh, so speaking of which, since Mike mentioned it, don't forget about next Monday and Tuesday shows. Sorry about that, Mike. Something happened. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, sounds good.
So we got Amy is back.
Good.
So we will put Amy in. And let's see here.
Hello.
Amy. Hey, there you go.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful. And you?
I'm nervous. This is the first time I have done the spot interview, but at the same time, I'm excited to do it. There is always a first time for everything. So, yeah.
And that's the key. Make the first time here, not in a time
Yeah.
where it counts. And use this as an opportunity. Now, what is your background?
I have done computer engineering, and I have a 10 plus years of IT experience. I have been doing, I'm coming from the development background, and from last 4 years, I'm working in AWS cloud, and I'm loving it. So we have in the cloud, we have moved a few applications from the in-house to the cloud, and we have also implemented a few serverless applications from the scratch. And I really love working in the cloud, and I'm doing this. I have passed 2 AWS certification examination to get more into AWS. So yeah.
What's your goal to work in AWS? As a cloud architect, cloud engineer, cloud developer?
I have done enough development, so I wanted to do more cloud engineering and cloud architect. But while looking at your video, I have realized that first you need to be good at cloud engineer, and then you can be a good at cloud architect. At least that's what I'm thinking.
It's the exact opposite. These are completely different careers. If you become a really good cloud engineer, you're going to have to work really hard to forget all that cloud engineering to become a cloud architect. If you become a cloud architect and want to be a cloud engineer, you're going to need complete retraining. They're so far apart. So an architect like me is an executive who designs, presents, and sells, and a cloud engineer is someone that's hands-on tech all day long, coding and configuring. So I can base this on whichever kind of interview you want. They're going to be very different interviews. Because if you want to be an architect, train to be an architect and do that. And I've got waiters and people that's selling shoes that are working at AWS as cloud architects, and big banks and big four consulting companies. So tell me the career you want, and I'd like to interview for it. But the job is going to be very different, and the interview is going to be super different. And if you want to be an architect, train to be an architect. You want to be an airplane pilot, train to be an airplane pilot. Don't train to be a flight attendant or a lawyer. So tell me the goal you want, and then I can interview you for which career you desire.
Yeah, I want to go with cloud engineer post.
Okay, then I will make it as a cloud engineer. So fantastic. So Amy, tell me about yourself.
As I said, I have been. My name is Aloki. Aloki. So people can pronounce it correctly. So that's why I use my name as Amy. I have 10 plus years of IT experience, and I'm coming from the development background, and I like to work in cloud, and I'm doing all the AWS certification examination, and yeah, that is what my goal is, to become a cloud engineer.
Okay. Could you give me an example in terms of performance of a standard NVMe drive that you would buy at Best Buy for approximately $100 versus the AWS fastest version of EBS Provision IOPS storage, the IO2? Could you give me a performance difference, and how do we stand with a standard NVMe drive versus this type of storage in the cloud? In terms of performance, throughput, latency, etc.
So what I know is with the AWS offers different EBS options with like high IOPS, or based on your usage. If you need like a higher IOPS, they have a different EBS options. That's what I know. That's what I know. I don't know much. Like I don't have the exact name, what kind of AWS they offers.
Well,
So,
let's say the fastest version that you can possibly get at AWS, the fastest IO2. How does that compare, which costs you about 10 grand a month for a 2 terabyte drive? How does that compare with a $150 drive at Best Buy in terms of speed and performance?
yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not sure how to answer that question.
And that's fair. That $150 drive is about 4 times faster than the AWS fastest drive. So given that block storage is really slow and it's our only choice, what can we do to speed it up for a high transaction database?
So for the database, you can always use the read replicas, so that whenever there is a read, it would fast up the performance. And in some of the database, you can also use the caching, and that also helps to speed up the performance.
Okay, but if the hard drive is the problem, how do read replicas help that?
I think
they don't. So you need to do something about the storage. So let's guide you towards the storage. What kind of storage options can you deal with to speed up slow block storage?
I think you need to do higher throughput, so where you can get the more data out of it.
Okay. Do you know the difference between IOPS and throughput?
IOPS is like in a second how much you can write. It's like input output per operation, and throughput is how much stuff you can get within a single transaction.
Okay, good. So if I want to push uncompressed video, do I need throughput or lower latency?
You need throughput because you need the quantity.
Okay, now if I'm dealing with a database, do I need throughput or am I concerned about latency?
It's a latency, because you need low latency and faster result. Okay.
Why can't I use DynamoDB in a multi-cloud environment?
DynamoDB is like AWS proprietary database. So I think that's why you can use only with the AWS, as far as for my understanding.
Good. So I've got streaming data and I want to use multiple clouds. What kind of things could I use to take in my streaming data, since I can't use AWS Kinesis because it's proprietary?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fair. So let's work on the assumption that how's your database knowledge? Is it strong or weak? Before I go down that path.
So I have worked in the past, but lately I have been doing like this Terraform scripting for AWS. So yeah, I wouldn't go with my database knowledge.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's try to get into some cloud engineering knowledge. Let's talk Linux then. There's a file on every Linux system. And if you don't have DNS, it'll map a name like Cindy to an IP address. What is that file and where is it located?
I'm not sure. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, /etc/hosts. If you're using VI or Vim on a Linux machine, how do you get to the beginning of the line and how would you get to the end of line in either VI or Vim?
I haven't used I used it only a couple of times, but I know that if you need to come out, you can do :WQ, and yeah, that's what you come out. And for the first line, I'm not sure. Yeah, I have always used the Windows machine.
Okay, but as a cloud engineer, and 95% of what you're going to be using is going to be Linux, not Windows. That's why I'm asking you Linux stuff.
Yes. Okay.
Now, as a cloud architect, you don't need to worry about that. But as a cloud engineer, you got to become a Linux engineer, and you got to get real good at it.
I see. Okay.
So if we're not there, because it's the host file, the /etc host. Control A is the beginning of the line. Control E is the end of the line. Escape : WQ bang, for example, will write it out, which means store the files that you've changed. But that's okay. Now, when we're dealing with servers and virtual machines, in a normal server, we've got physical cores. In a virtual machine, we have virtual cores. What does that mean in terms of performance? And what are those virtual cores versus those physical cores?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure. I'm coming from the development background, so yeah, I know the core AWS services, but yeah, I don't know about it. Like as you say, like I have the certification knowledge, but I don't have the actual cloud knowledge. Yeah.
And okay, so let's deal with that. So if I were to ask you, how would you secure a web application from the outside in? Would you know how to do that?
Yes.
How would you do
it? So we have implemented one application, and so we have a web servers and we have our database server. So our web server is in the VPC and it is in private network, and web server is fronted by load balancer and auto scaling group. And since the web server is in the private network and we have a implemented security group, so only the allowed party, we have opened the ports which is allowed for the for the interested party, like the database and the bastion host. So we are planning to front-end our application load balancer with the web application firewall. So this is how I can secure my web application. And obviously then all web application shouldn't have it should have virus protection and other securities like that.
Okay, we can help you a little bit on that in a minute. Okay, so we can go over that because we can't use a web application firewall unless we want to be hacked before we're finished dinner, and it's not adaptive in nature. So we'll talk about that. We also can't use a Bastion host unless we want to get hacked too. Actually, while we're at it, why is a Bastion host a security risk? Because you mentioned a Bastion host.
Because you put it in a public subnet, and so it's a easier goal for the hackers. So that's why you shouldn't be using Bastion host.
Why is it safer for me to put a VPN concentrator in a demilitarized zone as opposed to a Bastion host?
Sorry, I don't know about that.
That's fine. Let me go to some introductory level networking. I've got an IP subnet. It's I've got an IP address, 192.168.1.134. And I have a subnet mask that is a /25. Where does that subnet begin? Where does that subnet end in terms of usable addresses? And where's the broadcast address for that subnet?
I don't know I don't know how. In my mind, I don't know how to calculate it, but I know the site which is called cider.xyz, where I put the IP address, and this will give me the first IP address, last IP address. So that's how I can answer that.
Okay, and unfortunately, if you need a calculator to do this, your systems will come crashing down and fall apart within the hour. And I'll explain to you why once we get through this.
Okay.
Why should I hire you?
So I really love to work in the cloud and I can learn easily since I have worked in the inside. So I'm very much interested in learning how to do the cloud from outside. And since I'm coming from the development side, so I can think that I can easily learn and I can help you to grow your business.
Okay, so let's go over a couple things. One is the IP addressing. If I told you right now that for the cloud architect and the cloud engineer, the knowledge of what those IP subnets need to be is the most critical thing for everything that you need to know, and here's the reason why. If you get your subnetting plan wrong, everything falls apart. It's kind of like when you plan a city. If you were going to plan a city, you'd have to plan the roads and the traffic flows and how people would drive through your city. Your IP addressing determines your routing, which improves your traffic management. If you need to look at a subnet calculator, you can't do the job. You can use the subnet calculator if you're a DevOps engineer to check something, but not as a cloud engineer and not as a cloud architect. The IP addressing thing should have been, 190. If I gave you an address that's got a /2025, let's say we start with 192.168.1.134. I can tell you the first subnet begins at 0 and ends at .127. The second subnet begins at .128, and that's the network address. The broadcast address is the .255, and every other address between them is usable. I did them in my head because you got to be able to see this kind of stuff in my head. We can't use WAF to secure anything if we care about it. I know they teach it in your certification, and here's the problem. Here, this is now my WAF firewall. It just got breached. Now, I might even have some other fancy AWS certification that says, guess what, Mike, you've been hacked. Great, thank you. Now, if it's a next generation firewall and something occurs, the firewall will adapt and it will reset a TCP connection, or it'll close the connection or create an access control list on demand. That's why we have to use next generation firewall, not WAF. We secure our systems by the edge of a web server using a content delivery network with some DDoS protection, and that makes sure only legitimate requests get to our web server. If we care about security, we must use a next generation firewall or two of them. High security environments will use two sets of firewalls, which means network load balancer in front of next generation firewalls. Then we would typically use a network load balancer in front of a second firewall or an intrusion detection prevention system. Then we're going to protect the subnet with an access control list. Then we're going to use a security group. Then on the host, we'll disable the unnecessary services. We'll patch those necessary service patches against it. We'll add a host-based firewall, anti-malware protection, and those kinds of things. So that's how we would secure a web application. If we've got block storage, which is horribly slow, despite the cloud providers telling you it's fast because it's the fastest they can do, and we've got a database that can't keep up, we need to use RAID 10. RAID 0, and then another RAID set to back it up in case anything goes wrong, and that will give us the speed and throughput. We get about 7,000 megabit per second throughput and about 1 million IOPS from a standard NVMe drive that you can buy at the local computer store. That's about 4 times faster than AWS's fastest volume. So when we need hard drive performance, we need faster drives or RAID. You did do good with understanding that we can't use the DynamoDB because it's proprietary. But the second we hit any kind of what other questions did I ask, Chris or Amy?
Yeah, about the other question was. Yeah, it was mostly related to network, which I'm not familiar with. Demilitarized
The
zone.
demilitarized zone. So that's a basic security concept. So what you do is when you've got any device that you want to attach to the network, what you do is you take your firewall and you create a specific subnet. I'll create one subnet for my mail servers, for example, a different subnet for my web servers. And what'll happen is in that firewall, I'll make sure that the firewall only allows, say, ports 80 and 443 to the web servers. Only that. And then in that subnet, I can still use a network access control list and then a security group. And for my mail servers, I'll create another one, maybe ports 110 and ports 125, and that's all the traffic that's allowed there. Now, I did ask you about stateful firewalls, I think.
No.
I didn't? Okay.
Yeah.
What else did I do? So what I tried to gather is you're trying to look at cloud computing from a developer perspective. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to know the underlying technology, which is networking and data center technology. If you want to go to application developer, either cloud architect or cloud engineer, you must learn the network and the data center, which means you must know servers and server virtualization and containers and container orchestration, block storage, object storage, file servers, DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, BGP, IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT, switching and spanning tree and rapid spanning tree, and port channel, ether channel, link aggregation group, those kinds of things. So it's just, what it looks like to me is you took a couple certification exams because you got the certification knowledge, just not how to apply the knowledge.
Yes.
Which, the good news is you don't need to do the certification. They're already out of the way.
Mm.
You just need to figure out what is your goal career, either engineering or architecture, and master that. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't know Linux, it'll be easier for you to get a cloud architect job than it will be a cloud engineer job. Like, you can do either. Now, you must know Linux. You must know where that host file is in Linux. You must be able to get used to using VI and getting in and out of text files. You got to know how to update Linux as a cloud engineer, not as an architect, because architects design, present, and sell. We don't touch the tech. But you got to be good. You got to be able to write a bash shell script in Linux and automate things. You need to be able to think, okay, sudo apt install Apache to install a web server. And I'm not an engineer. And I'm not Mr. Linux, let me tell you that right now. But I was an engineer in my youth. And when I was an engineer, I did use Linux for a lot of things. Linux is everything for the cloud engineer. Of the top 500 web servers in the world, all but 5 of them are running Linux. So you got to, for the cloud engineer, here's what you need to be. You need to be almost a Linux engineer, a junior network engineer, a junior data center engineer. You need to have good Python skills, which I'm assuming you do. You have to, for the cloud engineer, not the architect, you need to have some good infrastructure as code skills, which I'm pretty sure you would have from your background, like a Terraform.
Yes.
So to me, it feels like you're trying to go from developer to cloud engineer, which you can absolutely do. So you've got two choices. Go from development to DevOps engineer, which is the easiest thing for you to do, because then it's just doing the DevOps piece. To go from cloud to cloud engineer, you're great. You're going to be fine. Learn that network and data center piece. If you want that architect piece, don't study engineering. Study, how to do an ROI model and how to design, how to present, how to sell, all those kind of things. But on an interview, don't tell me you're interested in learning. Don't tell me you're interested in developing yourself. I don't care. I mean, I do, but the businesses don't. It all needs to be my background and my experience can help you be more profitable. So what I'd say, this is a very good start. Very good start. And just, I think if you just learn those network and data center skills and Linux skills, you'll be a great cloud engineer based upon what you already have.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. And Amy, great start. Seriously, great start.
Yeah, thanks
If
for
you
volunteering.
asked me about software development, I couldn't answer any of those questions. I couldn't even tell you whatever. I'm exaggerating the point, but but the point is every technology career is different, and you did fantastic. It's a transition period.
Yes, after watching, so just give me 1 minute, Chris. I know you want to hurry up. So when I was doing certification, I passed, and I'm like, oh, I know it. But then I started watching your videos, and I'm like, I need to know all that in detail. So thank you so much. That's what I just wanted to say.
You're doing great, Amy, and thank you for participating. And I'm very familiar with the name Alok and Aloki, and I'm happy to use that name as well.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
All right. Good job. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. All right. So we've got I've got one more person for you, Mike, and and then you can wrap it up. So let's see. Gonna bring him in here, and he goes by Drax.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Drax. How are you, and where are you?
Currently I'm in London for last 7 years, but I'm Croatian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of heard that part of the world where I'm from. I couldn't figure out whether you were from Croatia. With your name, I definitely see it, or from Macedonia or Bulgaria. Yeah. I know you weren't Greek, where I'm from, but I knew it was somewhere in that region.
Yeah,
Croatia is beautiful.
My name is Sinisha, but it's difficult to pronounce, so everybody calls me Drax. So
I would have been fine with Sinisha, but wow, that's about the Mediterranean the way it used to be in Croatia, and it is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, we're actually same like you guys in Greece. It's like beautiful country and beautiful sea. Yeah.
Beautiful in Croatia, and Greece is obvious. That's my hometown. I love it, but Croatia is beautiful too. Oh, so fantastic. So, what have you been doing work-wise?
Work-wise, well, currently I'm working as a technical manager in a consultancy company on different ventures. But yeah, I've been in IT for like 25 years, and I've been doing all sorts of different stuff. I've been actually solving customer problems when I think about it for almost 25 years, from assembling computers to doing websites to photography to web design, development and whatnot. But I've been solving customer problems, all kinds and all sorts along my IT career, I would say. So
good, I like that. And what's your goal career?
I've actually chosen, I was a little bit torn between the architect side, but I was always a techie, so I chose the engineering one. And still at back of my mind is I'm like, should I, you know what I mean? But I wasn't particularly good in design, present and sell, but my technical side was always, it was getting my heart ticking much better than the actual, selling side. So I chose the engineering side.
Good. And see, I love that. Know what you like. If you like design, present, and sell, be an architect. If you like to be techie and it gets you excited, be a techie. I absolutely love that. And so now I know how to guide the interview, and that's why I'm going to ask you. You've got a lot of experience, so that's a heavy thing in your favor. So we'll talk about that. So Drax, now pretend you just walked in. I'm the hiring manager. Tell me about yourself.
So my name is Sinisha. I've been in IT for 25 years. And as I said, I've been solving customer problems, all kinds, for like 25 years. And I've been highly person that likes to work in teams, like helping people. And yeah, I've been a techie all my life. That's what gets me ticking. So yeah.
I like that. So what kind of tech have you worked with?
Well, I've been working with from Linux servers to Raspberry Pis to electronics to web development, video, photography, pretty much, I would say that I'm jack of all trades, master of some, I would say.
Okay, I like that. What are you master of?
So I would say, well, hardware-wise, I'm good. And as I said, I mean, I have actually many talents. It's really difficult to explain. I've been, along the way of solving customer problems, they always came up with something new. So I was always jumping on whatever I was focusing what actually my employers now are asking me of. So, one day I'm working and configuring next generation firewall, and the next day I'm doing helping them to come up with a catalog of for some other venture, or inspecting security in a website.
Okay, I like that. So, you said hardware. Could you tell me the difference between the CPU and memory architecture of a server versus the CPU and memory architecture of a home computer or a video game computer? What are the subtle differences?
Subtle differences, I would say. I mean, normal computer which you have at home for gaming or whatever, I mean, you have pretty much architecture wise, you have one CPU usually, and you would have some slots of memory of that RAM. In servers, you would have multiples, and it's different. Basically, it's made to be scaled in a server side, to have much more cores, much more sockets of CPUs, and much more RAM to be able to accommodate the actual whatever your business needs are in a server or for gaming. I would say it's the servers would be home computers on steroids.
Exactly. Many more cores, much more high availability. But let's talk memory architecture.
Memory architecture, I would say the normal computer wouldn't have, let's say, error correction, which in servers in that memories would be these RAMs would have a handling of the errors in ECCs, and I mean, I haven't been dealing with server technologies that much that I would know in depth, but I know the difference is that it's definitely not the same architecture, and it's not actually the same hardware or the price or the actually even the quality.
No, and that's totally great. So here's a question for you, because you got that rock solid, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
So let's talk about, because I wanted to know that you knew the error correcting RAM and why that would do this. If I've got a router, one router that I'm going to use to connect to AWS, and one router, is there anything that I should think about on this router to make sure that it's more reliable and it doesn't have any single points of failure on the way to the AWS?
Well, you can add a second router.
If I can't use a second router, if I can only use one router because somebody told me I could, is there anything that I can do in my routing choices or router choices to find a router that'll have some redundancy around some common failures?
Good question. I can't really think of anything that I would point out that you could. I mean, in a choice of routers, if you can't add a second one, I don't really know how to answer that question.
Okay, that's okay. Remember that question, Chris, and then we'll get back to them when we go over it. So we've got this. So when we're dealing with private lines, or we can connect our WAN via VPN connections, there's some performance differences in terms of guaranteed performance or regular performance and latency. Could you tell me the differences between the two?
So if you have a private line to, let's say, AWS, which is like a direct connect, you have a guaranteed speed because you have a private link to them. You have basically a copper or fiber or what have you. You'd have a direct link, and your speed, latency, it's basically guaranteed. Nobody else is using that link for you. If you're going to the VPN route, you're going through the internet. You are protected with IPsec, so you are tunneling through the internet, but you are basically depending on whatever traffic or whatever jamming, or I don't know how, I would say basically it's not consistent with VPN. And I would even say that with direct connect, you are pretty much more secure because it's just you using that line. You are using through the ISP, you're going to the actual direct connect center or what have you. You have two routers, one of AWS's, and then basically it's just private and yours.
Good.
So speed is guaranteed, and you have a fiber to them. It's like 10 times.
Outside of the hard drives, which I was just talking about with someone, how can I make a relational database scale, especially if I have read traffic that's more heavy than write traffic?
I mean, I did hear it from the last candidate, but basically,
well, but make sure I want you to answer it in your words, because not some of those words were actually proprietary things that I wouldn't be using.
Even here at home and my home computer, I've been using RAID 0 for last maybe 15 years. So what I would do,
I don't want to talk about the drive. Assume the drive performance is perfect.
Sorry.
Assume the hard drive performance is perfect.
So you mean the performance of the database?
But I want to make the database scale. I've already got perfect IOPS on my server.
Okay.
How can I make this scale in a multi-cloud environment? What kind of technologies could I use?
So what I would do to scale the database, basically you can detach in a way, you can make some more read replicas where you would segregate your writing operations from reading. So if you have many people reading the database, they would actually read the read replicas and not attack the same database. You have different points of caching where if you have the same queries all over again, you can use Elastic Cache in AWS for Redis or Memcached in that sense in order to boost the performance. So basically not to load the system that way in terms of the database, and I would use these kind of technologies in order to to make more performance on the database.
Good. How can I smooth write traffic going into the database, not on AWS, but on any cloud provider?
Sorry, say again, how can you?
Let's say I wanted to decouple my architecture and control the messages leaving the application server on the way to the database, but I don't want a proprietary solution. I want it to work in AWS and or Azure or Google. What could I do?
Good question. I haven't actually done much with the multi-cloud. I've been actually learning for AWS certification now. So I'm not sure how would I answer that question, but there must be a simple and nice and slick solution for it.
Good enough answer. And that's fine. We'll get into Kafka queues in a little bit.
Okay.
Which replaces the AWS FQS queue, which we could use anywhere.
I've heard of Kafka.
No, yeah, and that's what we'd use it for something like this.
Okay. It's queuing.
Yeah, so good. So with regards to what's the difference between a network access control list and a security group and how they function?
So NACLs or network access lists are mostly they are basically bound onto the subnet. So and they're controlling the subnet, and security groups are bound to these to the instances. And by default, security groups are I always mix them, but they are stateful, and network access lists are stateless. So in security groups, basically you can everything is denied by default, and you allow any network access lists are denied and allow rule. They're basically acting, network access lists are basically acting as an old normal standard firewall, and they have their order of rules which they abide to. So you have from top number to the bottom numbers. This is how it basically works. But yeah, this is what I would say.
Very good. Basic IP question. Got an IP subnet, 192.168.1.13.
Okay.
Subnet mask, 255.255.255.252, 30 bits. Where does that subnet begin? I'll go over it again. It's a .13. Where does it begin? Meaning the network. Which two addresses are usable and which is the broadcast?
So you would start at 12, and then you have two addresses which are addressable, and then the last one is broadcast one. I mean, it's actually really difficult. It's so simple. I have automatic light. Sorry, it's so simple concept of subnetting, but for some reason, even for me, I'm a techie, as I said, but it's so difficult to learn.
Yeah, but you do it.
I know it's good. I mean, on the side of interview, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I know that majority of students have the similar problem of actually mapping it in the head. Okay, I have, two addresses, or if it's 25, I have 128, and what can I address, and what's the? It's it's difficult to wrap around the head around it.
I totally get it, but the point is, you still got it.
No,
yeah. Okay, why do I use a network load balancer?
Sorry?
Why would I use a network load balancer?
With a network load balancer, you would actually provide more performance, but more important, high availability. Basically, the load balancer is a device that helps you to balance the load across your instances, or let's say even firewalls, or next generation, or what have you. Basically, it gives you an ability to load the balance on your systems or on the cloud. And of course, improve the performance. If some instance goes unhealthy, which load balancer does the health checks, it will not use that instance for a while, or it will constantly ping it. And then you have two types of load balancers. You have a network load balancer, which are much more faster, I would say, simpler in a way, which use as the network says, network like UDP and TCP protocols, and it's much more for gaming. And then you have application load balancers, which are more, I would say, more smart in a way, that you can route the traffic host-based, path-based, and they are different. The way they work, it's different. They are slower, but they are smarter, I would say. Application ones, yeah.
Why should I hire you, Drax?
Well, I'm highly energetic, and as I said, I mean, I've been solving customer problems for a really long time, and whatever my employer puts me on, I chew it like a dog. You know what I mean? It's like I have a broad knowledge, and I'm versatile, and I'm agile. So I definitely think that I would add something to the team, and I like helping people, helping colleagues. This is what I do. This is what I like, and I'm a techie. So there is no reason why you shouldn't hire me.
Wow. Okay, you're one of my students, aren't you?
Yeah, for a while, on and off, but I'm still catching up on the old classes, because I want to have everything done. And parallelly, I'm learning for the solutions architect. I want to have that certification done and get done with, to have that in a, if it's needed, just for a, for a
yeah,
paper.
it'll help you get this interview, and then you'll blow it away in the interview. You did really, really.
I think so. I would like to think so. Yeah.
Hold on, time out before you get into the breakdown of the interview. For everybody in the program, Drax, what did you just say you've been doing? You've been watching the what?
So I've been watching the classes. I've been rewatching. I've been, you know what I mean? It's really difficult. I want to start from the beginning, and because you covering everything from the May when it started, and I actually started in June, and I had a month off, and it's difficult to catch up, but it's definitely, it's definitely doable. And actually, to be honest, I was really blown away how you guys present stuff, how you guys teach, is something that's I haven't seen before. And I've been looking on courses, and I've been doing, and whatever you guys charge, it's nothing compared to what you actually give, and your motivation to get people cloud hired. And that basically the idea that you are part of the actual team, part of the family, part of the class until you get hired, that's, I think, it's a gold mine for us.
And thank you. And I've tried to create something special. Chris has, and the extended team has. It was first me, then it was me and Chris, then it was me, Chris, and Leo, then it was me, Chris, Leo, and Chow, and then Alonzo, and Manuela, and Eddie, and in Cameroon, Africa. Now we're just growing, and it's exciting. But honestly, I love the way you did that. I really did. I love every little bit. The intro, perfect. The close, perfect. On the relational database, very solid. There are some database people that talk about partitioning the database as an additional way to make it scale. I have other database expert friends that say don't ever touch it, but that's one of the things you can know. It's a possibility there. Apache Kafka replaces SQS in a multi-cloud environment. You said hardware. Yeah, you completely understood the server architecture, the difference with the memory and architecture, that a server will catch those memory errors in real time. Great. CPU architecture, got it. Now on the networking piece, again, you're a little new to that. I have two kinds of routers. I've got the El Cheapo router. I plug it into the outlet. If the circuit breaker blows, that router's dead. On a high availability router, what I do is following. I've got two power supplies, and I plug each one into a different power distribution unit off of a different circuit breaker. And then a circuit breaker can blow on our router, still good.
Okay.
Additionally, routers have a brain called the control module. I can put multiple control modules, and that way if a brain fails, the router's still up. Now, also these routers have cards in them, a high availability router. Card 1, card 2, card 3. I can put my cables on multiple cards, and that way if a card fails, I'm still up. If a brain fails, I'm still up. And if a power supply fails, I'm still up. So that's how we deal with that. Now, granted, if it really matters, we're going to use two routers like that.
Okay.
But, pretty solid job with that. You did very good with the networking questions I gave you. Very good with the cloud things. Yeah, fine. You didn't know how to use Apache Kafka for a queuing system. Most people that pass their certified solutions architect professional wouldn't even know what it is. They'd hear SQS and that's all they would know, but you knew better. You had the concept of all the security things we talked about. You did very solid. That was a nearly perfect cloud engineering interview. Very solid.
And it's only getting better. I'm learning. I have a steep curve, and just need more time a little bit to.
Truth be told, that almost could have passed for a cloud architect interview. You kind of did both, which means somewhere in your techie life, not only have you been doing the tech, but you've been coaching others and teaching it to others.
I've been, but this is why I was a little bit torn, because I was a geek at first, but I've, what I mean, I actually taught lessons of 15 years ago of normal IT, Word, Excel, Windows, and all that. So I've been developing some social skills, but I was always thinking of myself wasn't, when you say design, present, and sell, these three words don't get me so much excited as give me a screwdriver, in a way.
And I love that. And I love that. And I'm the guy that designs what the rooms of the house should look like. But my wife calls a hammer to me another $5,000 expense. And here's the reason why. Every time I take a screwdriver or a hammer out, not only to make up a hole in the wall, I go through a pipe, I go through an electrical conduit, I create holes in the roof. And my wife says, the second Mike picks up a hammer, it's another $5,000. I'm not even allowed to touch it because I'm so bad at using my hands to fix things. But
I mean, what I'm thinking of, even if I want to later in a stage, I will try to that engineering side to keep it under control, not to overtake that much. So even if I want to shift, I know that you were always saying that it's difficult if there are like pilot and a nurse. You know what I mean? These kind of jobs, but job roles. But anyway, I'll try to see maybe later stage. Maybe I'll just shift.
If you want to change later, you just focus on the business side, communication skills, and the soft skills.
Exactly.
For engineering, you focus more on the hard skills. They're both great jobs. I love them both. I've done both. There's not one that's better than the other, and I'll tell you that every day of the week. There's which one is the one that makes you happier.
And actually, would you say that it's easier to shift from engineering to architecture than the other way around, or do you think
I would say it's easier to shift from business to architecture than it is from engineering to architect.
Okay.
And here's the challenge why the engineers have the hardest time becoming the architects. I'm kind of an expert at making the transition and helping people, but it's hard because as an engineer, you got to focus on the nitty-gritty details of one thing. And as an engineer, we're to go focus on those nitty-gritty details. And we have to. As engineers, our focus is making the thing work. That's our job, making it work. And performance tuning it and making sure it doesn't break. That's our job, making sure it works. As an architect, our focus is how do we fix the business? And if your focus is fixing the business, it's not on how to make it work.
It's different, yeah.
So if you want to be an architect, your focus is business, 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 and enough of the tech so you don't break things. And then, here's the reality. This is, and most people won't admit it, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not ashamed. I've been an architect for 25 years. I go meet with that client, right? They tell me their business problems. I read their balance sheet. I look at what the industry analysts. I talk to the department heads, and I talk to the ground floor engineers. And I leave there. I know what the problem is, right? Now I've got a vision in my mind, and I go call my cloud engineer buddies. Hey, cloud engineers. Hey, network engineers. Hey, security engineers. It's a party. Let's design the stuff together. And then I got to go to all their managers and convince them to give them that. And then I bring in some network architects and security architects and other architects that can translate the genius in those cloud engineers world into something that I can understand, that then I can then go sell to the bank or whatever. So that's the interplay is, architects, business, engineers, tech, and we work together for every project. There's no architecture without the engineers in the background making sure it works. And for the engineers, if they don't have the architects bringing in the money and bringing in the sales, there's no work to be done. It's a marriage. Equally important positions, just very different.
So would you say in engineering role, you shouldn't be should you be focused with the designing as well of the aspect of, you know what I mean? Because that's more an architectural job to design a system. An engineer needs to know how to work it and how to actually build it.
Now, here's where it gets delicate. In the beginning of your career, what happens is the engineers just build it. As the engineers get turned into senior engineers and principal engineers and distinguished engineers, now they're subject matter experts on a single domain. And now a guy like me calls on those engineers to kind of do it. So normally speaking, if you've got a building engineer, a building architect that designs the building, 1,000-meter tall hotel, right? Like in Dubai, waterfalls, a slide that's like 1 kilometer long, those kind of things. I designed that as an architect. Before it's built, there's a structural engineer that says, hey, wait, here's the strength of the steel that needs to occur. Here's what you need to put the foundation. That's the structural engineer. And then the construction crew are the regular engineers. Okay. So what you'll see is, depending upon where you're at, when I first started, I was an implementation engineer. Then I was more of a performance tuning engineer. Then I was a design engineer, which was the architect. And then I moved, and then those design engineer roles turned into business executive roles called architects. So there is an interplay, but the architect is pretty much exclusively a business person. Oh. And the engineer is that strong, super smart technology professional. Architect is a schmoozer. Engineer is a builder. Architect goes in with a Canali or Armani suit. Engineer goes in a t-shirt with their company's name. Engineer writes a Linux Python script or a Bash shell script. Architect says, I don't know how to spell Python, but I can buy you lunch and I can design your systems and I can make your business 13% more efficient. So it's like, but it's a marriage of the two. Drax, unbelievable job there. I am super excited the way you handled that.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean,
very soon you're gonna be on some cloud engineer interview for some senior cloud engineer interview, and it's gonna be really, really great.
Hopefully.
This made me extremely happy today. What a way to finish it strong. Finish it on an engineering way, which is really even exciting to me because most people just know us for architects, but we're not. We train engineers as well. Wow, Drax, seriously. The next time we're in either Croatia or Greece, we've got to get a drink over there by the beach.
Definitely. I'm moving to America soon, but
hey, whenever the time is, I'm always excited to see it. I need to get back home to Greece. I've actually been meaning to get to Croatia for a long time. It's been ages since I've been there. But beautiful, beautiful place. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So great day today. So for everybody that's been here today, I hope you guys had fun on our cloud architect and cloud engineer interview training. This is a tech career interview training and demo. I want to help you get that cloud architect job, launch that cloud architect career, launch that cloud engineer job. And no matter what you do in your cloud computing career development, practice your interview training. Practice what is the tech, how does the tech work, why you should use it. Practice your interview constantly. You don't know when you're in the elevator with the CEO of the next business company, so be prepared. I like to say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Be prepared. I've got some Navy SEAL buddies that say destiny favors the prepared. Be prepared. Practice your interview. Get better every day. Look, I've been in technology now for over 25 years, and I still learn every day. Every day I learn something. Every day. And every day I try to get better in just some small way, because I know the day I stop learning is the day I die. I love architecture because it's about changing and performing businesses. I love engineering because it's bringing it to life. And you guys all did something incredibly, incredibly, incredibly amazing today. And some of you not only delivered perfect presentations, you did it in front of 1,300, 1,300 people today. Wow. I intentionally like to inject stress to make sure you can do it under stress. And then when you get to the interview, seriously, when you're on your interview, and you've done this in front of 1,000 people, it's going to be simple. So, Priscilla, thank you so much. Marla, another exceptional day brought to you by Go Cloud Careers and Blue Branches. Marla, you're all class and so special in every way. Chindan, how often do we cover the interview sessions? I think we do them once every 6 or 8 weeks for free. Busa, you're really happy you joined us. It's excellent. Thank you, Mike. I'm thankful and grateful that you were here. Mick B, exceptional session. Thank you. And yes, thank you, Chris. And the Blue Wrenches. Chindu, watching this video live on YouTube is an experience. Have a good day, everyone. Chindu, I'm so thankful you were here. Alonzo, Marla is cool. Marla is super cool. I view Marla as CEO of any kind of business. She's that great of an executive. And she's all class and decent in every way. So I hope you've all had a really great time today. If you can give me a hashtag, tech interview training, and a hashtag, cloud architect interview, or a hashtag cloud engineer interview, I hope you had a really, really great time. Come have an incredible weekend. Get some rest. If you're one of my students, get some rest and then do some studying. Because what do we want? We want you all cloud hired, cloud promoted, and cloud paid more. That's the only reason I do this. That's the only reason I came out of retirement, was to get the world cloud hired. I knew there was a massive difference between what's covered in certification and what's covered in what you need to be that cloud architect or be that cloud engineer. So make interview training part of your tech career development program. And if you want to become a cloud architect, we'd love to train you in our cloud architect career development program. If you'd like to be a cloud engineer, we'd love to train you in our cloud engineer career development program. So join us. Follow us on LinkedIn, because I'm going to have interview training documents for you, interview training blogs for you, more magazine articles for you, more blog articles for you. So come, everybody, get cloud hired. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend, all of you. It was so much fun seeing you. And I'll see so many of you next week. Take care, everyone. And let's get cloud hired. Take care, everybody.
All right, now that he's gone, again, remember, join us on Monday, me and Alonzo. We're going to be, we'll be taking care of you guys, having a blast. So join us Monday, 2 o'clock, August 15th. And then join us again on Tuesday night for our regular Head in the Cloud show. You won't want to miss it. We promise.